Okay, I did do microphone. Okay, is there any public comments? Not,
Yeah, there's a card.
Yes, we have Nicole Cruz.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Cruz. In August 2018, I applied to PVUSD and was offered the position to be a teacher on special assignment as an after-school lead teacher. I got this position at Starlight Elementary School in Watsonville. During the course of that position, I witnessed what I believe to have been illegal behavior. I was told from 2 previous Starlight after-school coordinators that they too had witnessed this behavior. At first, against my better judgment and integrity, I complied with my direct supervisor to support this behavior. In November 2018, I decided to be a whistleblower. Shortly after, I was then non-reelected. Even though I was never evaluated or observed performing my job at Starlight. I truly believe that this non-reelection was in retaliation for whistleblowing. On February 21st, through PVFT, I found out that I was on the non-reelection list. Within 24 hours of finding this information out, confused and deeply saddened, I then resigned. However, within a week, my resignation was rescinded when PVUSD said I would have employment for the 2019-2020 school year. It was later that I found out that I was not going to be given the opportunity to obtain the same job that I was hired to do for this school year, and the only option was to take a classroom teaching position. I lost the job that I grew to love and the job which I was hired to do, which is the after-school lead teacher. I believe there are vacant positions in which I can be placed with an alternative evaluator, and that is what I would like you to help me do. At least one other full-time TOSA in my same position was grandfathered into her ASP lead teacher position for next school year, and I deserve the same just treatment. When I had clear documentation of illegal behavior, I went to my site leader for support, the director of extended learning department, who was my direct supervisor, the union, and the union went to the superintendent. Now I am turning to all of you. If desired, I will follow up directly with any trustee that has questions regarding what transpired at Starlight Elementary School and within the extended learning department. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Do I turn this off?
yeah, okay, just so you know, this is the PVUSD board meeting on Wednesday, June 12th, so you know. We are going to be discussing in closed session 2.1, certificated public employee appointment, Government Code Section 54957, 2.2, classified public employee appointment, Government Code Section 54957, 2.3, negotiations update, 2.4, public employee discipline dismissal release, 2.5, ratify workers' compensation claim 450844, 2.6, ratify workers' compensation claim 506331. It's 2.7, ratify workers' compensation claim 544286. 2.8, final agreement and release for one special education student. Such a lot of things to do at our closed session. Lots of things to go over. Sorry about that. So this is our meeting for June 12th, 2019. And we just ended our school year, and we all went, well, most of us went to a lot of graduations. So I'm going to ask, let's see, who could I ask to do the Pledge of Allegiance? How about Eva? Something you do. Eva, how about you do? Okay, well, okay, you can do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, please rise. Place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tenemos un traductor, Virginia. Si necesitas tener traducciones, se puede pedir los, no sé, aparatos que ella tiene para poder hacerlo. If someone would like to speak on the agenda, you can get one of those little cards. They look like this, from Eva, and to speak on any item of the agenda, or you can do it in the open session where anybody can speak on anything. Okay, si alguien quiere hablar con la agenda, en la agenda, si se pudiera pedir una tarjetita a María, y darlo a Eva para darlo a Danny, está bien, si puede hablar sobre cualquier cosa que tenemos en la agenda. Okay. Superintendent comments.
Thank you. So just wait 1 second. All right, great, thanks. So we, at PVUSD, we have the honor of possibly becoming part of the League of Innovative Schools. So it's a various part. First, you have to request, or you have to be invited to participate to even do the grant and the application. Then after that part, then it requires a superintendent interview and follow-up video, which I'm going to be showing you tonight. It's a big honor, and if we receive, will help us as we are on the short list of the school sites that are being looked at for the Hewlett-Packard Foundation large grant. So, nosotros tenemos el honor de ser parte, tal vez, del grupo de las escuelas innovativas. Y en uno tiene que dar la bienvenida para poder aplicar, para hacer la aplicación. Y después hay una entrevista con la superintendente. Y luego hay un video que uno tiene que hacer para mandar a ellos. So, nosotros estamos muy ansiosos para ver si estamos parte de este grupo, porque si estamos parte, tal vez vamos a poder recibir una beca de la fundación de Hewlett-Packard. Ellos van a dar más de $4,000 a $5,000 a un distrito, y nosotros estamos en lo que se llama una lista corta. Entonces estamos muy felices. Here is our 3-minute video.
members speak. Jennifer.
I'm just going to go real quick because I know we're low on time, but I have made my nomination for Pajaro Valley Education Foundation, so I'll get her information to you, Dr. Rodriguez, but she was former teacher and coach to a lot of teachers. Her name is Bonnie Farrar Dunbar.
Other than just that it was a privilege to see so many of our students either graduate from, our district or promote to a different level, I'll waive my comments for now, but that was pretty darn special.
I also got the opportunity to attend a couple of graduations. We also had a very successful first annual Innovator of the Year award, where 62 or 63 of our staff members, both in certificated and classified, were recognized for their innovative contributions to the district and student learning. So we are really hopeful to continue to expand that moving forward in the future. So thank you to staff for their amazing work. We also had our Alianza Charter School groundbreaking community garden ceremony, per se. And it was a complete success. We had about 25 volunteers. So I do want to take the time to thank some of our sponsors, including the Friends of Watsonville Parks and Community Services, Home Depot, and district staff for their collaboration. And we met last night for the Pajaro Valley Education Foundation. So we are beginning to plan our first fundraiser will be the Strawberry Festival. So we hopefully be selling a strawberry tamales as part of the Strawberry Lane. So it's really exciting. And so that's in an effort to make sure that we meet the goal of being fully sustained by ourselves without having to utilize district funds moving forward in future projects. So with that, I do want to encourage board members to sign up for a shift. I will be sending out the volunteer list. I think it's important for staff and board members and, of course, the directors of the PVA Foundation to support this effort. Thank you.
Okay, Kim.
Thank you very much. I'll try to keep it brief. I attended about 6 or 7 graduations, including that of my own daughter. She finished up at Aptos High this year, and I thank you. Had the special privilege of making the address to all the parents and students and felt very grateful to be able to do that, so thank you for that opportunity. I want to thank Mr. Kevin Jeffrey, Vice President of Granite Rock, for serving on our Pajaro Valley Education Foundation. He's let me know that it's been his pleasure to serve, but he's just spread too thin. He's got 5, I think he's on 5 different boards. So I will be appointing another representative to the Pajaro Valley Education Foundation. I would like, well, anyway, different comment. I too attended Innovator of the Year. That was the very first event from the Pajaro Valley Education Foundation, and we're very proud of all of the staff and the teachers that were nominated as Innovator of the Year. We, I think we had 8 that received the Innovator of the Year award. District-wide, but how many people, 82 or something, were nominated?
63
Were there, but I thought there were some people missing. Anyway, multiple people nominated, and we thank every one of them because they are all very, very special. So thank you. And lastly, I serve on the board of a pediatric foundation, and we're having a fundraiser this Friday, and I have a flyer here, and I'm going to pass it around. It's our only fundraiser of the year, and kids in our district benefit from the work of this foundation. We meet critical needs for kids that don't have any other payee for something that will change their life. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up this evening. Hot week. Hopefully, everybody stayed cool. Just to be brief, I attended Open Streets a couple weeks ago. There, I ran into a representative from the Public Works Department, and I asked if they could look into having more street lights on Rodriguez Street, close to Radcliffe. It gets really dark out there, and I think that's a issue that needs to be looked at. I attended Minnie White, E. Hall, and Watsonville High graduations, and I attended Ryder Berry Health Fair with the mayor. It was a good fair to get resources for people that work in the berries and the strawberry fields. If they don't have access to insurances or just school district needs, I'd like to thank the Ryder family for helping out and putting that together. Thank you.
I'll try to be quick, but I went to a lot of graduations. I went to one that was complicated because the Pajaro Middle School had their open house, and so I went to, and I usually go to every single classroom, but I had to go to the adult education graduation. Pajaro Middle School at 6, adult education graduation at 7. So it was a very busy evening. I also went to the Innovator of the Year award, and we hope to continue to have them every single year. This was our first, and it was pretty special. I suggested that we, next time, because you have all these 63 innovators going up, and you just kind of don't know what they did, the incredible things that they did. So I said it would be great to have their names up there on the screen and put, a couple sentences of what they did. So we could say, whoa, she did this, she did that, or he did this. So hopefully we can do that too. I also went to New School and Renaissance. They were on the same day, one after the other. And the principal actually cried because he cared about the new school students so much. He actually cried at the mic. That was pretty sweet. I went to the, when I went to the Pajaro Middle School, they had their I wanted to say this too, they had their band and a choir perform. They had the 2 levels of their band perform and their choir. It was pretty cool. I went to special education, and they had 13 students graduate this year. It was pretty cool. And they talk about each one of them, all how wonderful they are. And I went to Alianza, and they had certificates for everything. You name it. They had certificates for like social justice even. And they had they had certificates for each who's doing the best in math, who's doing the best in this. They had great certificates, lots of certificates. I also went to Watsonville High School graduation as well. And they had, a guitar performance. They had a Muslim student come up and talk, which was pretty cool. And they had, obviously, valedictorians. They had 2 valedictorians. And they had, dancers. They had folklore dancers. So they had lots of stuff for their graduation as well. So there you go. Thank you. Okay. Approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed to the agenda? Okay, the board minutes for May 22nd. Can I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Can I have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we are going to open, tonight we're going to have quite a few public hearings. So I'm opening the public hearing on special education SELPA in regards to the annual budget and service plan by Heather Gorman, who is the director of SELPA.
Thank you. Now, can you hear me? Okay, good evening again. I'm Heather Gorman, SELPA Director. So I presented last year. This is very similar, but I know we have new board members. So it's just talking in general about what we have to submit to the state every year by June 30th in regards to our annual budget and service plan. So let me make sure this works. Okay. No, that looks good. Okay. So in our local plan, I have to follow some directions from the state. So this is just talking about what we're looking at. And the local plan has a section stating that the SELPA will adopt the annual budget, that there's going to be this public hearing. The actual annual service plan and budget plans are submitted separately from the rest of the local plan. So we at SELPA also have a local plan, which I brought today just as a prop. And then I send it to the state by the 30th of June. So, oh, sorry. You got it? That's okay. Oh, it's probably me. Okay, so prior to submission, both the budget and the service plan must be adopted at a public hearing. Notice of the hearing must be posted in schools 15 days prior in English and Spanish, so we send that out. I actually sent it out way in advance this year, so, and asking all the office managers at every school to post it. And then the budget and service plans may be revised during the fiscal year. Okay, is that right? The annual budget plan requirements. So the annual budget plan, so this is in addition to all of our typical schools. We have all of our elementary, our middle schools, and our high schools. But the annual budget plan, we also must include the administration, oh, sorry, this is a different slide. So the administration costs. Sorry, guys. Okay, sorry. So we have the annual budget plan must include administration costs. So you have the sheet that has all of the pricing on it in your packet. Services to students with severe and low incidence disabilities. So severe disabilities would include disabilities such as intellectual disabilities, and low incidence are visually impaired, deaf and hard of hearing, orthopedically impaired disabilities like that. Services to students with non-severe disabilities, so if they have a specific learning disability or just speech services. Some students with autism could be considered non-severe disabilities. Then we also need to include supplemental aids and services to meet the individual needs of students placed in the general education classrooms. So at times, students in general education classrooms need talkers or devices to help support them in the classroom. But they're accessing the general education curriculum just like any other student, but they may need some other support to help them. Okay, let's see, does this work? Okay, so the annual service plan also must include the nature of the service, including related services. So if you have specific academic instruction, that's the general service, and then a related service might be that they would receive occupational therapy as a related service. Then it also includes a physical location where the services are provided, and that also looking at the schools, which is in addition to all of our typical schools. So we have alternative schools, charter schools that we provide services in. Oh. Maybe my finger's too heavy-handed on this. We have opportunity day schools operated by the district, community day schools operated by the county. So we do have, like Sequoia, we have services that we provide students when they go there. Community schools and like DeWitt Anderson, district community day schools, non-public school agencies, like the Bay School, Oasis, and different schools like that. So all of that is included and what services we have in the annual budget plan. Okay. I went the wrong way, sorry. Okay, and that's it. Do you guys have questions? Or actually, public.
So we have a couple public speakers. Adriana Lemos.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Adriana Lemus y... Oh.
Good evening or good afternoon. My name is Adriana Lemos,
Y yo lo que vengo a preguntarles es,
and I'm here to ask you,
tengo un niño especial.
I have a special child.
Y yo lo que venía a preguntar, ¿a quién se puede dirigir uno para, no quejas, sino preguntas de por qué hay tanto cambio de maestros para los niños especiales en el distrito?
And I would like to know who I could direct my questions to regarding, or comments, not a complaint, but just questions about why they're always changing the teachers.
Quisiera saber con quién se puede dirigir uno.
I would like to know who I can take my questions to.
¿Sí?
She would like to know if someone can answer that now. Oh, sería Heather Gorman.
Sí. Entonces con ella se puede,
Con
porque
ella.
lo que pasa que como cuando los niños no van a la escuela, a nosotros nos mandan decir por qué
¿Por qué no van?
por qué no van, por qué se
Be-
ausentan.
Because when our children are absent, they ask us why they are not there.
Y nosotros es lo que queremos, bueno, yo como madre es lo que quiero preguntar, por qué así como nosotros nos exigen con los niños, ¿a quién le podemos exigir con los maestros?
And as they expect us to have our children at school, we would like to know who we can go to so that we can expect the teachers to be there.
Pero ya me dijeron que con ella,
Con ella.
me tengo que dirigir.
Sí. ¿Puede hablar con ella después?
Sí.
¿Alguna otra cosa?
No, nada más eso era porque los maestros no duran en el distrito. Los niños, para niños especiales, no, hay muchos cambios para ellos.
And that was my question, just why the teachers don't last.
Y lo que quisiéramos es que, como ella que dicen que es la que nos puede atender, que nos pregunte a los padres, porque los padres sabemos cómo está la escuela o cómo.
¿Cuál es la pregunta que le preguntan a los padres?
Ajá, que como ellos que son los encargados para los niños especiales, que nos pregunten a nosotros los padres, o que con ella es con la que nos vamos a dirigir para que puedan.
Well, since they want, excuse me, I want to be asked, the parents to be asked about anything, but since I know she's the one in charge, I'll direct my questions to her.
Quiero decir muchas gracias para venir y hablarnos sobre lo que usted quiere que pase.
Me gustaría más, nos gustaría a muchos padres, pero muchos ahorita no pueden asistir como a estas juntas.
Sí, pero hay padres que quieren saber
Sí.
las mismas cosas que usted está preguntando, ¿verdad?
Sí, que ¿por qué hay tanto cambio de maestros? ¿Por qué no los pueden retener en las escuelas?
Ok, cómo no. Sí, como ella es la directora de la educación especial,
Ujú.
ella es una buena persona para poder preguntar sus
Ujú.
preguntas con ella para que ella contesta y ojalá que podamos resolver el problema que ustedes y los otros padres tienen. Sí,
Sí, porque hay más padres, pero como
Ujú.
son madres solas, están trabajando, ahorita los niños necesitan cuidarlo.
Yeah, okay.
There are more parents that would like to come and speak, but they're busy or they're single mothers and they're just not able to come. ¿Usted sabe dónde comunicarse con ella?
Sí,
Okay. I just asked her if she knew how to get a hold of her.
La educación especial está muy cerca de aquí.
Va a hablar con Alicia ya cuando
Alicia, ella habla muy bien español también, ella, que está para allá.
okay.
Que
¿Alguna otra
she can
cosa?
also,
No, nada más era eso de.
And that was all I wanted to know.
thank you.
Muchas
Thank you
gracias.
very much. Gracias.
Next, we have Laura Zucker.
Hello. It's hot in here. Board of Trustees, Dr. Rodriguez, everyone else here. I actually wanted to speak about sort of the same topic. We have noticed that it's hard to retain special education, especially the special day class teachers. We know that at Hyde, we had, not at Hyde, at Lakeview, we did have kind of a revolving door of teachers for a while. We mentioned that when we were talking during our last contract campaign. Now we think we have a couple of teachers are going to stay, but it is, as our parent Adriana said, it is hard for the kids with autism to not have a teacher who is certificated, who knows what they're doing, and we hope that it'll be a teacher who'll stay there for many years. And I know that this year too, we've lost a couple of teachers who do another high need classroom, kids who have emotional mental health challenges. We've lost a couple of those teachers. And unfortunately, I think this is actually a teachable moment, I think, for us, because having talked to those teachers, they contacted me because we know each other, or because of union matters, I don't know, or because I'm a parent who has kids with a child with Asperger's, and so I had remembered being very appreciative of one of these teachers when I met her at Amesti because of the respect she had for the kids, for the way she connected with the parents, for the high expectations she had, for the way she really individualized her work so that these children with mental health challenges could succeed. And so we talked, and she had said that what had happened is that she was told to change her program, and the things that were said to her and then later about her, about how she had not changed her program, made her sad. And I'm not saying that we don't change programs, I'm not saying we don't make suggestions, but I think this is a time when we can think about how do we create community, how do we talk to adults, how do we say, can you do this? And how do we show democracy, so to speak, to say, what is your input about how we do this? What is your input about these children? What do the parents think? Can we do this particular program with this child, or since they are individualized education programs, do we need to do something else? And she was being told that she wasn't being, showing fidelity to the program. And this, having been a coach in ELD, when we changed from, doing a lot of singing and dancing and not doing systematic instruction to when we started doing systematic ELD, I knew as a coach that I couldn't come in there and say, you have to change everything right now. I had to say, oh, this is great what you're doing, and what do you want to do, and how can we do this and this, how can we add this to what you're already doing? Because otherwise, as we like to say in general ed, if I'd done that, I would have eaten lunch alone for the rest of my life. You can't do that in general education. Teachers do not like that, but I know we need to change sometimes, but I think we need to have input from teachers, and we need to be flexible, and I know we have a great SELPA administration, and there's many people who are seen as being in power, and they have this power that they come with, which is great, but they have to be careful with it because they have positional power to not seem like they're saying things that make people feel afraid, or they feel, I know I really have to go. Anyway, I think it's a teachable moment. We can figure out a way. I know that our great SELPA can figure out a way to keep our teachers, but losing two of these really wonderful teachers, there's no reason on earth why we should be losing the teachers that we most need. We have to find a way to talk to each other, to let everyone in so that we can create a community that lasts. It's not sustainable otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Eileen Clark Nagoka.
Good evening. My name is Eileen Clark Nagoka. I'm a teacher at H.A. Hyde School, and I want to begin by saying that I'm sure that SELPA is trying its best, and that they're doing the best with the resources they have and the number of students they have to serve. But I did have an experience this year that was just really awful, and I had a very, very difficult time communicating about a student in my class, and it took very long to get him the services he needed. And there were red flags from the beginning. When he came in, he couldn't speak. He still was wearing a diaper. He was tantruming and screaming all day. And there were lots of cognitive, apparently, from what I could tell, deficits as well, which are too broad to go into right now. But he was clearly an outlier. In fact, It just so happened that one of my friends, who's a language tester for the district, said that when he was the only one out of hundreds of kindergartners that she tested that wouldn't respond at all to him, to her rather, I'm sorry. So he was very, very obviously an outlier and in need of some kind of help. And he did have an IEP written, and he was evaluated, given an IEP in November, but he will not until this coming year have an appropriate placement. And there's lots of reasons that that happened. Too long to go into right now. But one of the things that was recommended in his IEP was that he have a SKIA, a special a behavioral aid. And the person that was to evaluate, part of the evaluation for that was to have an observation. Well, that observation didn't happen until the last week of school, 3 days before the end of the school year. And his IEP was in November. So to finish up, I don't know what the review of SELPA entails, but I hope that it's a 360 evaluation, that teachers are asked, that school site principals and leadership is asked about their experiences. And because honestly, from people I know in this district, there's very, very, very widespread discontent with the efficiency of SILPA, of the availability of SILPA services. And then finally, it seems to be a truism in our district that it's thought that in the North Zone, things happen faster because parents are more litigious, more middle-class parents are more able to get legal help, and so things happen more quickly there for special ed students. I don't know if that's true, but I really think it should be something that's investigated. Thank you.
Are you done? Okay. Okay, I'm close. Oh, yeah, no, before there's, okay, board comments.
Make a quick comment. So I have spoken with Dr. Rodriguez at length about SELPA, and we have discussed about putting a SELPA to come to another meeting together that talks about what the process entails for parents and students, and just to have a better understanding of the processes. Also implementing some things like making sure that if you send an email that you're recognized that an email has been sent, and you get a lead time for what is happening. So we are thankful to you for bringing the problems that you're experiencing to us, and we are working on it. Thank you.
Any other comments? You want to comment?
Yeah, but Dan, you can go first.
I also want to say the same thing Trustee Shocker was saying. We're here, SELPA teachers. I barely took a visit to HE High last week, and it's tough work what you guys are doing. To just keep emailing us, coming to meetings. We're trying to do our best that we can, working with the superintendent, but we can't do it alone. We need more speakers. Hopefully we can have something in HE High, but we just want you to know that we're listening, and thank you. We'll see you later.
Thank you, Heather. So most of this report that was scanned in is sideways, so in order for us to read it, we have to do this.
I mean, I
So-
did try to do that.
Sorry, I
I
didn't
didn't
realize
either.
that, yeah.
And I think there's probably a way to rotate it. So your budget is $40 million, correct?
For the overall, let me,
Or is it more than that? I couldn't tell.
so, do you have?
I'm looking at your estimated totals in reference A.
Yeah, do you have this sheet? Sorry, do you have this
Yeah,
sheet?
That's what I'm looking at.
Yes, and so the funds received, and that's correct.
Okay. And is that greater or less than what we receive year to year?
Oh, we don't
You mean
receive
what
it.
we receive from the state and federal funds?
Yeah.
So
Like
this
just
is,
your budget in general, is the 40 million, is it larger than normal, or is it about the same, or is it less?
it's not less,
Okay, good.
so, yeah. It's about normal to a little bit more.
Okay. And is that enough to cover the services that we provide? Because
Well,
doesn't
what-
your budget actually encroach into the general fund?
Yeah, so what we receive from state and federal funding does not totally fund special education. And it has been a mandated, service that we have to provide specific services, and it has never been fully funded. So, yes, this is something that we do have to get a contribution from the general fund to cover.
And off the top of your head, can you tell me what the percentage is that it encroaches? Like,
I don't have off the
General
top of my head, I know in general, and I don't know if Joe has, because he had it from last year too.
Yeah, the amount ranges anywhere from 28 million to 30 million per year.
in addition to the 40?
Correct, on top of that.
Okay.
So the contribution from the general fund unrestricted.
And is
Those
some
are
of that part of the transportation budget, or is that completely a separate situation?
That's a separate situation.
Okay, so that's just services, that's just essentially people put into place
Right.
to meet the needs that are stated in the IEPs.
Right, and it's
Okay.
not as, if you look at throughout the state, we are not abnormal in our district with what we spend for special education and what the contribution is.
Well,
So it's not,
I would beg to differ that that's not actually accurate. So the state in general is at 9%. We are at 14%.
Oh,
So therefore, we do contribute more than normal. Joe, during the budget presentation, will actually speak to how the contribution has exponentially increased over the last several years. So I would say that it is accurate that no school district is fully funded for special education. That is accurate. But what I will also say, which is unfortunate news, is the Senate just reversed out the governor's proposal to give us significant additional funds for special education. And so because of that, it is a statewide issue, but we have exasperated levels because of the higher percentage of students, which is why we're working on first instruction and working on literacy, because some of the students that are in special ed, we can keep out in the future years out of special ed with good first instruction.
Is the 5% above the state average, does that have anything to do with us having our own SELPA? Or the amount of children that we have, or?
No, I do think that this area does have a higher percentage of preschool students, and we also have a higher percentage in the region, not us specifically, of autistic children as well. And so it's not indicative of anything that we do or whatever, but we do have a very high level of students that come to us needing special education services as early as infancy.
right, and with significant needs.
Well, the good news is we have early intervention, right? Because we have the level 3 NICU, so we have the early intervention programs. So with our recruitment into preschools in Paso a Paso and all of those other initiatives, our hope is that we can then sort of bridge the gap between the discrepancies of the kids coming into the school. Okay, that's great. One more thing, and Heather, what would you say your biggest challenge is?
Overall?
Is it recruitment and retention of good staff?
That is one of our largest challenges, because that affects so many other things that we are trying to do.
And I think as school board members, we recognize that that's a very challenging population, oftentimes to serve in the more severe cases. So, can you talk just this much about what the recruitment looks like for our district?
We
For these
started,
positions?
yeah, I mean, I've worked closely, meeting with Chona weekly and Allison and being over in the office, and we started back in January with our recruitment efforts, going to schools, going to fairs, having MOUs with different universities, looking at, for school psychologists, and so there has been a concentrated effort on specifically how to recruit and, get special education teachers here. So that's that short of an answer.
Thank you.
So, I know. I mean, I probably have an idea about why the retention is not that great with special ed teachers because it's such a hard job. Probably that's the issue, right? Is that most of the issue of why they're, the woman that came and said, why don't we have anybody that's going to stay here?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that go into it. And, it's like having that fully qualified person because it is a challenging job, but then stepping in with somebody that's learning it is, there's a lot that goes into the retention and teachers leaving for retirement or teachers leaving for other reasons. So it's not, I don't think it's just one issue of that it's challenging.
Yeah, it's got a lot of other issues. Wow. I think we plan to do an agenda item, haven't we, on a special ed. We're going to have special education as an agenda item for those of you out there, Laura, actually to just delve into all the issues that we have to deal with special ed. And special ed is the biggest budget item on our, that we pay for. It's probably the largest, isn't it? For benefits, yes. I mean, besides benefits, yeah, benefits is pretty huge. But special ed is the largest portion of our general fund that we have to pay for. Special ed is it's huge part of our general fund. So, when people think we have a lot of extra money, it's like, well, we put a lot of it in special ed for one thing. Yeah. Yeah, so that's going to be agenda items so that we're going to work on all of the, huge, issues that we need to work with in regards to special ed. I'm not sure when it's coming, but it's August. We're going to do it in August. There you go. Okay.
I have a couple questions, if I may.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer Holmes. Okay. You're next.
Sorry, I didn't see it. With the implementation of PBIS, have we seen a decrease in referrals to special ed, or is it too soon to tell?
I think it's too soon to tell. I definitely see the impact of PBIS and it's in its infancy, so that is definitely the hope that there will be less behavioral referrals due to having that first good instruction in all areas.
And then as far as outreach to parents, how do we go about doing that, or how does your department keep parents involved, inform about how to navigate the process of requesting information from your department, of asking for services that they may think their child might need? Because even as a parent, my kid is receiving speech therapy, and even myself having to navigate the entire process, it can be a little complicated.
Yeah, it is.
And if you don't know education, or at least a little bit about it, it's very easy to be swayed not to advocate for your child. And so I would definitely like to see a better system in place where students feel safe and are encouraged to reach out to the department and
students or parents?
I'm sorry, parents.
Okay.
To the department on how to ask for those services.
Yeah, and we've really worked on building our CAC, our Community Advisory Committee, which any parent can attend that has a student with special needs, and any parent or staff in general can attend. Jennifer's been coming to the meetings. We do mass phone calls out to parents in English and Spanish. We do peach jar announcements in English and Spanish. We partner with SPIN, so that's a network for parents to help parents, and have given workshops on the IEP process, what it means to have an IEP, so just information. And then yearly, there's our conference that we do that's for Spanish-speaking parents, and it's, you know, in combination with other people to give in-services and talk about anything that parents may want to know about different topics, and really focusing on IEPs and how that is. So we are trying, but we of course can always do better, and any things that you think of or suggestions, we're always trying to, you know,
And I
increase our outreach.
Yeah, I think I would think, push a little further on that. It's, okay, so we're doing all of this, but is it really effective? Right, is it that we're doing the right thing?
Yeah,
I
and
think would
it's,
be the question.
yeah, it's our CAC has been growing. It's gone from a couple parents to 30, 40, you know, so it's growing. So it's, you know, maybe it's not as big as what we want, but I do see that it is having an effect.
Okay. And the other thing is, what part of the budget is dedicated to summer?
It's part of our overall, because our summer isn't like summer school, that is a separate budget item. It's extended school year for special education, so it's just part of what we provide in our program.
So for testing over summer, do we contract out with?
No, so over summer for assessments, we have a timeline that stops when it's extended school year, and it starts up again when the school starts in August.
Okay. Because the person that tested my child was from Hollister. And and this is speaking experience, was, it seemed to me was just testing on language, not articulation. So when I actually sat down with her, I said, no, you know, we need to look at this further. And she said, no, your child is, you know, has the testing with flying colors, and that was not the case. So I think we just need to be aware of that, of, you know, making sure that the assessments are being done.
And
Is
can
what
I
the child
clarify
needs.
just a little bit too?
Sure.
Because I talked about the fact, you know, with school-age children, we have that timeline that stops. With any student that turns 3, it's our obligation to test them prior to the age of 3. So we do have people that come to test in the summer for that age group.
Okay. So I think it will be nice. I know that we're investing a lot in special ed, but I think when we have an internal team that's connected to the district, I think it's.
Which, yeah, we have for the last 2 years, so that's good.
They're, what is it called? They're
The PAC,
yeah.
the preschool
so-
assessment
yeah,
clinic, and they are
exactly.
running this summer, and they ran last summer.
Right, and you know, and that was amazing. That group to me felt a lot more supportive, and I think that should be more accessible to parents. I feel that are looking to making sure that their child is being assessed properly.
Right, that's why we
So
brought that in,
just my
yeah.
feedback on summer, it just seemed to me
Right.
like it was just a waste of time. So thank you.
Jennifer?
In looking at that discrepancy between the statewide average and, you know, our average in, you know, our future presentations, I would love to see data of, like, broken down maybe by county or something, like, you know, particularly areas that have
Yeah,
potential, like, you know, environmental exposures, like pesticide exposure, or things of that nature. I would love to just see it broken down a little bit if possible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah. Is that
Yeah.
it?
Okay, thank
that it?
you,
Thank you.
Heather. Thank you so much for being up here. So we're closing off that public hearing, and I am now doing this for the next one. And we're having the next one on the local control accountability plan. And the report will be presented by Susan Perez, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction.
Good evening, President Osmondson, members of the board, Superintendent Rodriguez. This is an annual presentation that we do as part of the implementation and ongoing monitoring, updating of our LCAP. I want to point out that we are actually moving into year 3 of a 3-year LCAP. So the information I'm going to present to you this evening is really about where we're at in the 2 out of 3 years, what our priorities are moving into our 3rd year, and what some updates are we're recommending for our 3rd year. It is not a complete rewrite of the LCAP. That will happen next year when we will write a brand new 3-year LCAP. So as a reminder, our LCAP, while it has 7 goals, really supports 3 major priorities, and those goals are under these 3 priorities: 21st century learning, high quality learning environments, and connectedness. And that's really making sure our students and parents feel connected to schools, so our focus is on the culture and climate at our schools. So as a reminder of the whole LCAP timeline, throughout the year, we are implementing the actions and services that we have outlined in each year of the LCAP. We start in fall. I believe we started in October and really ran pretty much through March with various stakeholder input sessions. So while we are implementing the LCAP, we're also taking feedback from stakeholder groups from throughout the school community. In the spring, looking at our results from our actions and looking at stakeholder input, we make recommendations for updates the following year, which is what we've been doing for the past month or so. After we have come up with those updates, we share them with the District Advisory Committee and DLAC for a review and comment session. These are the only 2 groups that we go out to twice through the year. That's part of a legal requirement with LCFF. All of those in white font have taken place, so now we are to the last few steps. The board update and public hearing this evening, where we will share with you our recommendations for updates for next year. Then we come back again in 2 weeks for a final board approval, and the LCAP must be submitted to the County Office of Education by the 28th of June. So given that, because I have not had an opportunity to really, I shared with you last time, I believe in February, our stakeholder input process. I haven't had an opportunity to share with you what the priorities were that came out of our various stakeholder groups. So I am going to share those with you. I do want to point out that these priorities are a combination of areas where they said, you're doing this and this is important to us and we want you to keep doing this, and those topics where the various stakeholder groups said, you're doing this, but it's important to us, enough to us, we want you to do more. Increase this, please. Or this is really a priority. So starting with our parents, the priorities that rose to the top from the various parents we went out to was to continue arts and music, requests for tutoring support for students who are behind, especially in math, more STEM opportunities, support for high achieving students, continued facilities upgrades and maintenance, family nights. These have been very popular. We're doing these in a lot of different areas and they want to see those continue. Counselors, both academic and social emotional, small class sizes, and then efforts to address bullying in schools. From our students, and this reflects student groups from elementary, middle school, and high school. I spoke with all 3 grade spans. Digital resources and technology, and I do want to point out for the most part, the lists are not prioritized. However, I will tell you for students, this first one was their #1 priority. I heard that more than anything else, was the emphasis on digital resources and technology, modernizing schools and updating furniture. And this was a funny one because when I shared with DAC, one of the items that the students really talked about was they wanted more wobbly chairs. And when I shared that with DAC, of course, they're our age, and wobbly chairs meant broken chairs or ready to break chairs. And the students want wobbly chairs that are made to wobble and wiggle like they do. And so that's what they meant by wobbly chairs. But this is a combination of modernizing schools and updating furniture with the idea that the furniture is more kid-friendly and moves so that teachers have the flexibility for different learning environments, working collaboratively and pulling back apart and changing groups of students. Hands-on curriculum, a less textbook driven, sports and activities, support to prepare for college, counseling, career technical education, and this one was a new one this year, a lot of requests for support in preparing for SAT and ACT tests. And then wanting to feel safe at school. And this one, while I did hear from students that they wanted to feel safe from bullying, what I heard more of was that they wanted to feel physically safe in the school from the outside. So I think it had more to do with what they see in the media and wanting to feel like school kept them safe from outsiders. Staff priorities, this was both from the teacher survey as well as leadership. Early literacy, critical thinking skills, students ready for college, flexible learning environments, again, similar to what the students said, a welcoming environment, safe, clean, and aesthetically pleasing, students' well-being, both physical and emotional safety, and counselors. So there were definitely trends and similarities among our stakeholder groups again. So I brought this information back again to DAC and DLAC, and what they shared back was they wanted us to be keeping parents better informed regarding programs, assessment results, and college information. They wanted more support for students who are behind. They wanted counseling services, both academic and social emotional. They definitely want us to keep improving facilities, improve school safety, and ensure support for foster youth. So that was the majority of, or just giving you really what rose to the top from the various stakeholder groups. So then looking at our results from all of the actions that we're doing, as well as listening to the stakeholders, what I want to share with you now in those three big priorities, what have been our big initiatives for this year, and what are we recommending that we update next year. And I will say for the most part, it is a lot of doing the same things because we know we are on track doing the things. Clearly, our actions are very much aligned with what came across as priorities from our stakeholders, and we are seeing results from the actions that we have in place. And so in terms of initiatives right now, improving reading foundational skills is huge, and 21st century learning really is our biggest area. The highest number of actions in our LCAP, because this is all about student achievement. So our reading foundational skills, a great deal of that is our SIPS program. We have been slowly focusing and redoing the way we've been doing SIPs through training for teachers and a lot of on-site coaching and follow-up. Innovative programs, digital resources, visual and performing arts, bringing back our VAPA programs, building out our CTE pathways. This year was the year that a group came together to develop a new EL master plan. And then we have been focusing on looking at our bilingual programs and building out a new dual language model, which is currently taking place at Freedom Elementary, but we are looking at expansion of that. So in terms, these are a few photos, and this really is very much, this was reflected in the video you saw earlier. In the two pictures at the top left are Code to the Future, Latino Film Institute down below. That happens to be photographs from Cesar Chavez, the work we're doing with Digital Nest, and then I think you're all familiar with Paso a Paso, Step by Step, which is also supporting our early literacy. And moving into next year, because we have seen such success with SIPs, we are adding 9 more elementary schools, and this will mean all of our elementary schools will be using SIPs and getting that additional support and coaching. We are implementing a lot of new instructional materials and continuing next year with that. Increasing digital programs, especially for interventions. And again, this is also addressing some of the requests that we had from parents. We are transitioning our CTE programs from the County Office of Ed to PVUSD so that we can strengthen and build out better pathways. Expanding El Sistema and the Latino Film Institute. We have a new grant we will be implementing next year to support music at the elementary schools. It is a VH1 grant called Save the Music. Is that 10 minutes already? Oh, man. Okay, faster. Implementing the master plan, expanding our dual language model. In high-quality learning environments, we have the 21st century learning environments that we've been putting in place, a lot of focus on custodial and ground support, coaching for new teachers, and bringing in updated academic materials aligned to the standards. I think these are photographs you've seen. That's EA Hall. This was the Aptos High Library that now has a maker space and that ability for students to collaborate together. Our next steps are to continue those facilities improvements, increase coaching support for new teachers, and then continue to update instructional materials. In connectedness, which is our culture and climate focus, we have been focusing on bringing positive behavior interventions and support, a program into our schools. We have brought out or expanded, well, brought in for the first time and then expanded the number of social emotional counselors we have available and supported sports at both middle school and high school. And these are some examples. That's the Starlight PBIS team, and then some examples from Aptos High School and our soccer team from Watsonville High. Next steps there, whoops, excuse me, to continue all of the actions under that goal and to begin expanding how we're monitoring that goal. So currently we're measuring our success in that by suspension rates, expulsion rates, attendance rates, and really that doesn't tell us, doesn't give it the feedback from students. And so with the Youth Truth Survey, we can get that feedback from students and parents, and I think better monitor our progress on that goal. So I apologize for going over a little bit there, but at this point I can take any questions or comments.
Comments. I have a ton of them that I wrote down, but what? Okay, because I hate to say it, but I wrote them all down and I have a whole bunch of them. I don't know if I should say them all and go back on them. I'm not sure which I should do. Well, I'll kind of list them, okay, and you can decide which one you want to do. Okay. I wanted you to explain more what is called the Estrellitas. You know that program? You know about that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted you to talk more about the curriculum for social emotional. You have a social emotional curriculum for secondary and elementary school. If you could talk a little bit about that. And it talked about that you had some Saturday parent events, and I just kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about the Saturday parent events, you know, what you were able to do for parents at those times. Let's see. So in the LC STEMA, you said that you were going to add one more, which would be 3, but I thought you had 3 schools in it already. Valencia, Minty White, and Radcliffe. But are you going to add one more besides that? You're going to 4th school. It's going to be a 4th school because you said you were going to add it to 3 schools. What?
Duncan Holbert.
Okay, so the 3rd one, the 4th one is going to be at Duncan and Holbert. That sounds great. And then the last one, I was going to ask, explain how the school-wide information system is part of the PBS. You know, if you can, you know what I'm saying?
Swiss.
Mm-hmm. Swiss. I mean, just so I can understand how that is connected to PBS. PBIS, yeah.
Sure.
So, and the last one I wanted to say, this is just a comment, how disappointed I am in, I mean, we had a master plan years ago, and we never, ever implemented it. We put together a master plan, and we just let it go. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, to put together a master plan and just not do anything about it, whoa. So I'm so glad Dr. Rodriguez is here with us again, because now we're going to actually do it. We actually did the master plan, re-looked at it, put it together so it's even much better plan. We're going to actually finally, we're going to implement it. Whoa. I know, I feel very disappointed in our school district, you know, what happened before. But anyways, so did you get them all down?
I believe I did.
Okay, you can start with the first one if you want.
Okay.
Esther,
When
you-
we were transitioning from our old language arts program to the new, which we're just going to be implementing next year, we went through a period of time after the Common Core was adopted where we did not have current instructional materials, and we were creating a lot of transitional materials. And one of the areas where we had a need was in our bilingual kinder classrooms for phonics materials in Spanish. And so we researched and found the Estrellitas program, which is a phonics program in Spanish.
Okay.
And we brought that in as a transitional program and have been using it for the last couple of years. And will be looking at, have been looking at this year and will continue to be looking at now that we're going to be adopting a new language arts program, whether we will need to continue using Estrellitas, whether it will fit in with the phonics that's included in the new program. But basically, Estrellitas was a transitional program we had for phonics for our bilingual kinder classrooms.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
And then your next question was curriculum. Our SEI, our social emotional curriculum at the elementary school is called Sanford Harmony, or the Harmony program. At the secondary level, we don't have a specific curriculum. We've been utilizing the SEI framework out of Castle, and we are looking at whether we do need to provide more resources for that. That's part of what our MTSS group has been looking at and will continue researching for next year. But we have trained the majority of our elementary schools on the Harmony program.
And the Harmony program is going to be, just give me a little
It's a
synopsis
social
about-
emotional program,
Yeah.
and it's a set of resources that are available for classroom teachers to help build a stronger classroom culture, to help teach inclusiveness and teach students interpersonal skills, and how to interact better with each other, how to problem solve.
Together with each other.
Together with, yes.
Oh, okay. Problem solve, and young people have to learn how to share and all that kind of stuff too.
Yes.
But I'm
And then Saturday parent events, Michael, did you want to add to that, or let me go ahead and wing that one? Parent events?
the Saturday parent events. Okay, you can't be way down there and say that. Remember, we're on TV.
Spin and SELPA and the parent ed team work collaboratively to put on an annual SPED conference for parents. I think it's in October, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
So it's like one Saturday, you're talking about Saturday parent events, it's not more than one Saturday.
There's a parent conference.
There's also the annual parent conference. Yeah, but this one specifically was once a year in October for SPED families. And SELPA, and then the parent ed team. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's similar to the annual parent conference, scaled down a bit, but provides appropriate information for. Yeah, that was for elementary, the prepare for summer. Yeah. Did you want me to elaborate on that one too? Did the new one?
To toot his horn here a little.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so is that another Saturday one, or no?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
It's where we piloted and we're attempting to avoid the summer dip. You know, the
Yeah.
data that shows us every
Yeah,
summer
yeah.
students go down with their RIT scores. So we tried to do a mini version of the annual parent conference, specifically about how to engage students over the course of summer. And then we had a community fair where we had local agencies that have different resources and activities throughout the year, throughout the summer, to engage parents with their students, with their children.
So you already had that?
Yeah.
And did a lot of parents come?
We had about 30.
Oh, that's not too much.
It's not too many, but again, it was a pilot. We just aimed it for K3, in conjunction with Carol and Extended Learning to try to get more students to sign up for summer school as well. And we have great feedback from both the presenters and the parents.
Oh, they did, the ones that were there, there wasn't that many, but they liked it.
Yes.
Oh, so you have to do,
And they asked for more.
so you have to, so are you gonna, so you're gonna have to wait till next year to do the next one?
Yeah, and we're
or-
going to move it up. One of the issues we ran into was that that the timing of it wasn't very good because it was the day before Open Streets. So a lot of the
Okay.
community organizations that and parents that would want to be involved were kind of they were already booked, right? So we're going to try to move it up by a month or so
Moving up to,
into May.
into May, okay. Move it back, you mean?
Yeah.
Not forward.
Well, it was in June. It was June 1st. So we're moving into like May 7th next year, I think.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And we'll let you all know. We weren't very confident about it. It was kind of a, let's see if we can make this work and see how it goes. And it went well.
That's good. Okay, let's see. Okay. so
Okay,
I
your
think
next
almost
question
every-
was about Swiss, I believe. Or
Yeah.
El Sistema, was your question answered about the fourth
Yeah,
school? Okay.
yeah.
Then Swiss, I'm going to defer to Chris on that. She is the expert.
The expert. In regards to Swiss, so Swiss is an outside system essentially that uses the information that we have on PBIS. It's not the only system that can work. So as we move from, it was necessary at the time when we had eSchools because we weren't able to do the functionality of what Synergy can do. So in essence, it's not necessarily a necessary component. So mainstreaming the effect and what it does is if it sits on the outside of our Synergy system, you're requiring staff, whether that's counselors or administrators, to log in both areas to provide the same information and same report. So essentially what ends up happening is Swiss is no longer needed to get us the same information that we would have. Implications of what that looks like moving forward, it doesn't have any impact on us at all. So our system basically will be in Synergy. We'll be able to pull the same data that we have if we were using Swiss. So location of the event, time of the event, what the corrective measures were, what discipline action may have occurred or not, what the reentry was, all of those pieces will already be in Synergy. The implication with the state would be that it doesn't impact our state applications at all. The only requirement for the state applications is that we have that data and we can show that data. So through Synergy, we're confident that it will be more efficient to use one system that can drive the same data rather than using two external pieces.
All right. All right, so that's all of my questions. Sorry, I had a big thing. Any more questions from any other board member now that I asked so many?
I do, just hopefully they're quick. Under school climate and connectedness, so anti-bullying initiatives, aside from updating the site policies and the Be a Better and Kinder You campaign, have we looked into possibly implementing anti-bullying curriculum or integrating some sort of anti-bullying curriculum into the elementary schools?
I have not been part of conversations on that, but the other two may have.
Well, I think that's inherent in the SEL curriculum
Mhm.
that we would be implementing, because part of the SEL framework is looking at self-advocacy and also self-care. So I'm sure that as we're looking at, just because it's a issue all over the nation, as we're looking at the SEL curriculum, we will be ensuring that it actually supports that as is required by our board policy, actually.
And I just would add to that the Harmony program, while it is not an anti-bullying curriculum, research has shown that empathy goes way up and bullying goes down using the program. And it is actually, as of 2018, it's on the CASEL national list of recommended programs.
Thank you. And then my other question is, there's been some cases of sexual harassment and having to let go of staff and so forth in the past 2 years or so. Is there a way or is there a system in place where students can report those incidents anonymously?
Yes, that's part of our, do you want to address that? Yeah.
So that's part of the WeTip campaign that we have. So part of our board policy as well was that we're supposed to be having the posters up around the school sites. When we first looked into this now, a little over a year ago, before we did the whole initiative, we purchased additional, well, actually, they were free. We requested additional We Tip posters. There also has been questions about using social media and having students be able to do that. So through the use of now, when we have Synergy, we'll be able to have that capability. So with our current student information system, we don't, but there will be that possibility once we transition July 1st.
And then in regards to the survey, could we implement some sort of question around that issue? What prevents students from reporting those incidents? I know with the case that we had, I'm not sure, was it last year? But the staff member, some people reached out to me and said, we knew this was going on for a while. So what keeps students from reporting those incidents?
So can we add questions to the Youth Truth Survey?
Yeah, so we can get a better understanding of.
Oh, I thought we could.
No?
So with Youth Truth, we're not able to. However, we are able to through the Healthy Kids Survey.
Okay.
So we can do that. The problem with the Healthy Kids Survey and why we went to the Youth Truth Survey is that it's not every grade and it's not every year. Fortunately, with the Youth Truth, we can choose different sections, but we're not able to specialize questions because they calibrate it nationally. So anytime you get a result, you get your result in comparison to the nation. So you know either how good you are doing or how poorly, and also by state. We can do it by California or like districts. So because of that, we cannot customize those questions. However, I think through LCAP input sessions, through the Healthy Kids Survey, through PBIS teams, there's a lot of things that we can do. We did just also implement an LGBTQ survey where we ask kids those questions. Many times they're sometimes the most vulnerable population. And so there's a lot of ways we could get insights into how the students are feeling.
That would be good to do. Thank you.
So I've attended some of the LCAP meetings over the years, and there's been sort of an ebb and flow of how many parents actually come out for those. Are we capturing any parental responses via surveys?
Yes.
And is that increased?
Yes, the survey feedback has increased because of that ebb and flow you're describing. We did, I think it was at Maria Roscoe's request, developed a parent survey that is on the website at all times, and we have pushed out information on that throughout the year. And this year, I noticed we had a lot of increase in parent surveys coming back in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did we request input from parents at this year's parent conference?
On the LCAP? I did not, no.
I think that would be, you already have, was it 200 parents present at the conference? I think it would be really good to have maybe a paper survey of some sort where we give them half an hour to provide their feedback.
Okay, I'll make note of that. You're welcome.
Quickly, I'm closing the public hearing that we just went through. Now I'm opening another public hearing, and this public hearing is about our 2019-2022, 22 PVUSD proposed July budget adoption, presented by Joe Dominguez, our CBO. And Helen, she's going to help.
All right, good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Rodriguez, and members of the public. First, like to start off with just giving an outlook of our local and our state economy and how California measures throughout our nation and what that economic impact is to districts in California. And then also kind of give an overview of the state budget and how that impacts our district, positive, and then also what are some risks that are associated with that as well. And then we'll go through the proposed budget presentation and then how we fare as a nation. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the California economic outlook, our economy is growing, but it's going at a very slower pace than anticipated. Our economy as a state does rank 5th in the world on a global scale, and our GDP almost at $3 trillion as of December 18. We maintain a high, historically low unemployment rate at approximately 4.3% as of March of this year. And so then our personal income and unemployment and the jobs within the state of California, we've seen a steady increase. Our housing in California is also a reflection and a big driver for our state and local economy. And since 2016, production has decreased by 12,457 units at the end of 2018, and 10 of the least affordable major market in the nation are in California. And so we do see a trend as a state that people are moving outside of California and less homes are being built, and it is expensive to live in California, as we all know, compared to the nation. We have an increase, though, of non-farm jobs within our state, and we have an upward trajectory on that, and approximately 2.7 million since 2009 jobs have been created in the market because of our economic recovery. But I want to also stress that the risk to the state budget is also a risk to our district budget, and we are directly connected to the state budget, and what the state impact is, whether positive or negative, we feel that as districts throughout our state. The budget at the state level is predicted on assumptions that the economy will slow but not contract, and that is both that an economic slowdown, the impact of the global economy, and that is in, I think we mentioned at previous presentations, our trade embargoes or tariffs, and then how we fare as a state compared on a global scale in competitive factors. The May revision was lower than anticipated. Initially, in January, Governor Newsom proposed a 3.46 COLA, and so we got a little bad news that it was reduced to 3.26, and so that was a change that we just recently were made aware of. And the categorical programs outside of the local control funding formula will receive the statutory COLA, and they're listed below. But I also want to state, as costs continue to rise, these programs will see adjustments to COLA and also ADA for special education. So as a state, I mentioned as we rank as a state in the global economy and the housing development and how our GDP as a state compared through our nation. But I really want to point out that as a state, funding for public education, our grade, if we were given a grade on how we fund our children in our state, would be an F. And California's per capita personal income is $44,173. It's above the national average, but only $34 of that on $1,000 of personal income is to support schools. And you compare that to New York and New Mexico. New York, personal income of $46,445, but provided $55 for each 1,000 of personal income, and they earn a grade A. New Mexico, on the other side of the scale, has a lower level lower per capita personal income of 36,814. But as a state, they made the commitment to public education, and they provided $48 for each $1,000 of personal income, also earning a grade A. On the proposed budget, in our budget adoption process, as you know, each school board is required to adopt a budget prior to July 1 at a regularly held board meeting. This is by Ed Code and our state regulations that mandate us to do so. If we fail to pass our budgets, then there is actually more stricter legislation that the county intervention or intervenes as a fiscal oversight, and then potentially the state can also intervene, and we do not want that to happen. The current budget does take into effect the most recent information that we have on hand, and that's the governor's May revision. The School Services of California dartboard, which all school districts in California use, and then the Fiscal Crisis Management and Assistance Team, FCMAT, and then we also use the Local Control Funding Formula Calculator. One thing that I wanted to mention is the budget. This budget does not include, in the governor's May revision, he proposed approximately $696 million for special ed and for SELPAs throughout the state of California, and they would have to qualify to receive those funds. In order to qualify, districts would have to have an unduplicated count of over 55%, and we have 80%. Districts would also have to have a 3-year average above 10.9% of special ed students, and we're approximately 15 to 16%. So easily we would have qualified for that money. The state assembly voted it down and countered. Their proposal is $593 million statewide, but it's only for special ed preschool for all districts. So Governor Newsom proposed strategic specific formula for districts that would qualify those specific criteria that I explained. And the state assembly is actually taking away those restrictions and saying it should be for all districts, but for preschool. So they're going back and forth right now on that. We still haven't received any information. So as soon as we get more information, we will make sure that we include that. And we have 45 days to make adjustments to our budget. The LCFF increases during implementation phase. So Governor Brown was very, tip my hat to Governor Brown, he was very aggressive and worked both sides of the aisle to make sure that he fast-tracked the implementation of the local controlling funding formula. And you can see that from 2013 to 14 and 16, 17, and then wrapping up at 18, 19. What I want to point out now is if you look at 2019-20, now we are flat funded and we're fully implemented. So prior we had, we were at the high 90%, we were getting additional funding from LCFF. And now that funding we no longer receive and we actually flat funded, other than what we receive in COLA, which you see the 3.26. So that's all we're getting from the state. Our enrollment in ADA, this is one of the main factors in our budget development process. We have a third-party firm that assists us in our enrollment projections. And as you can see from 2014-15 to projecting at 21-22, we're declining, and you see that throughout. So I just wanted to show that trend because that's also very important as we manage to maintain fiscal solvency in our budgets. Our declining enrollment, as you can see, as I mentioned previously, but from 18-19 to 19-20, we lost 163 students. We are looking at from 19-20 to 2021, we're projecting a loss of 57 students. And what I'm worried about is in 2021 to 21-22, we're projecting a loss of 186 students. One of the things that I would like to commend the state is we have two major liabilities is our CalSTRS and our CalPER rates and contributions. Governor Newsom was able to contribute to our CalSTRS portion, one-time money at 3 billion, and then he added another in his May revise, another 150 million. And what did that do? For 1920, the contribution rate, it reduced from 18.13% to 16.7%. And that was very helpful for 1920. The proposal retains the 2021 decrease of 19.10 to 18.10. And the chart reflects for the outgoing years. But as you can see, if it wasn't for the contribution there, we would still be having an ongoing, which we do, an ongoing increase, but the increase would have been a lot more. However, for CalPERS, well, there was no assistance or one-time money for CalPERS. And so you see the steady increase of CalPERS throughout the multiple years that we're faced with. So the contribution rate for 1920 is 20.73%. That's 2.6 higher than the current year rate of 18%. And it also approved a continuation of the new member post-para contribution rate of 7%. And there is no one-time money, as I mentioned, and the rates are increasing. And we're doing the necessary adjustments to manage these fiscal liabilities. One of the, I think I mentioned to the board previous, in 08, 09, when the state was in recession, the state gave districts flexibility options, and one of those was routine restricted maintenance. So they gave flexibility. You can swipe those funds and use that for the general fund to help with offset layoffs or cuts or reductions, et cetera. And now they're rebuilding the routine restricted maintenance budget back up. So districts in California for 1920 and beyond, we're required to put 3% of our general fund expenditures within our routine restricted maintenance. And that's approximately 7.8 million for 1920. Our multi-year projections are required by AB 1200, and we have a thorough analysis through our county and then through the state. And as I mentioned before, our multi-year takes into account our projections, not forecasts. And our projections are based on the data provided in both in our multi-year, our enrollment projections, and then our annual costs within our multi-year, and then how we're funded by the state. I want to point out, though, projections will change at any time, given the fluctuation of the state economy or state adjustments at the state budget. When that gets approved, then we adapt and adjust within the 45-day window. For the general fund unrestricted, I'd really like to point out the beginning balance, and I'm just going to look at 18-19 at 33.82 million, and if you go to the far right to 2021, it's reduced to 9.9. And you look at the 18-19, the revenue, and you look at the expenditures. So here on the unrestricted, we're not deficit, we're in there, but what we see from 18-19, if you look at the contributions, that's the contribution of 35.2 million, and in 1920, 38.2 million, 2021 of 37, and 21-22 of 37.2. That is going to the restricted. So we're taking from our unrestricted budget and transferring it to our restricted side of the budget, SELPA, transportation, et cetera. And so that is the contribution from our general fund. You see the deficit spending. We are decreasing our deficit spending in the out years, but we still have a challenge with deficit spending, and we are working on that. Our ending balance, I would like to also bring caution to the board that our ending balance, as you can see, is dwindling down, which also the ending balance of 18-19 is your beginning balance for 19-20. And so you can see the trend that our ending balance is, and our beginning balance is decreasing. One of the things that, and I commend the fiscal team, but one of the things that we had to do is, and like to thank the board's support, is the board was very proactive in establishing a 6% reserve. The state requirement of 3% reserve, I was able to retain that for 18-19, but for the outgoing years, 19-20, 20-21, and 21-22, you can see I need to use that additional 3%. and that'll help offset the expenses that we have. And so we only have the 3% state required for economic uncertainty. For restricted, here you see the beginning balances once again, the revenues that are coming in, and the revenues are the state funding that we receive for SELPA, and for transportation, it's not enough. And so you see the contributions coming in from the unrestricted side of the budget for each year, and then you see our deficit there, the increase and decrease. And once again, you see, I also wanted to point out though, the revolving cash, so you have I also highlighted the non-spendables, which is our revolving cash, and our revolving cash at the county. And then the asterisk with the signed fund balance, you no longer see the allocation for PV High football field project because that's already being spent. And so you see that no longer there. And then this slide shows the funds combined. And once again, you see the beginning balance, the revenues and expenditures. And now you see our deficit spending of 13.6. And then for 19-20, 16.1. And then we did a great job of reducing our deficit, but also reducing some of our expenditures to get there. But at the end, I also want to look at the ending balance and caution the board that our ending balance for 18-19 is 26.3, but then 19-20, we're projecting it to be 10.1, and then 20-21, 10.8, and 14.25. So we are very lean as a district. And so I want to just bring up fiscal caution and making sure that we do our part and the necessary adjustments that we need to take. So where do we spend our money and where does this all go? So the board's asked me previous to bring this slide forward, and our 19-20 projected expenditures are $260 million, and this is total general fund. Out of that, salaries and benefits are at 86.15% of our budget. And you see the breakdown for classified salaries, it's at 14.7. Certificated management, 4.1. Certificated salaries, 31.3. Indirect costs, employee benefits on the left side at 34.7%. Classified management at 1.2%, and I attached the dollar figures there. So for classified salaries, we're at 38.4 million. Certificated management, 10.8. Certificated salaries, 81.6. In classified management, we're at 3.1. And for employee benefits as a district, 90.5 million. And then the smaller items. We are a people business and serving our children of our community. And so that pie chart reflects that we have 86% of majority of our budget or expenditures on people. Now, total salaries by unit for 19-20, it's 134 million. And for certificated salaries, 60.8%, which is 81.6 million, is to certificated salaries. Classified management is about 2.3% at 3.1 million. Classified salaries non-management is 28.6 at 38.4 million. District certificated management at the district office is 2.2%, about 2.9 million. And site certificated management, our principals, our assistant principals, et cetera, 5.8% at 7.8 million. So as I mentioned, we're student-centered, student-driven, and so we are maximizing our financial resources at the sites, and it reflects in our budget here, and I just wanted to point that out. Benefits. This, we have a very benefit-rich plans, but it also reflects in our commitment as a district and our expenditures. And so I just wanted to break that down. So we pay, as I mentioned, 90.5 million for 19-20. 54.2% of that is health and welfare at 49.1 for our current employees. Our retiree benefits for retirees at 2.3, and that's approximately 2.1. Other is workers' comp, et cetera, and that's at 4.4, a little bit over 4 million. I wish I can control, or I wish the state, and I hope we figure this out, but the ongoing cost increases of STRS and PERS that we talked about in the previous slide is reflected there. And STRS is at 24.4% at 22 million, and PERS is 9.4 at 8.5 million. And then Medicare at 5%, which is at 4.5 million. As mentioned, or as asked previously earlier in the evening, what do we contribute from the general fund? And here's the contribution for 18-19. There's the total unrestricted contributions from the general fund for 35.2 million. And then in 21-22, 37.2 million. And then you see special education, the contribution annually, routine restricted maintenance, and then on the lower part we have transportation and other programs. So those are the main contributions from our unrestricted general fund. And as I mentioned previously, we are not funded as a state correctly to cover our costs, and that's the visual and what we reflect in our budgets. I believe the SELPA funding model is approximately, I believe, 40 years old or so. And I do give credit to Governor Newsom to trying to kind of shake that up and trying to see other ways how to fund a different funding model. But that model's been around for a long time. So that hasn't changed, but we'll see what happens in the next 45 days. What we have to deal with now, though, is the current financial model that we have. And so in 16-17, you see the actual that we have, and we wanted to show multi-years, so we got a perception of where we're at. 17-18, our actual was 26.7. You see the increase of 487,000. 18-19, we're estimating an increase of 755,000. And then 19-20, we're seeing another increase of 1.4 million. So with our 2021 budget assumptions, I have to take into fact the declining enrollment that we covered earlier and making sure that we include that in our multi-year assumptions. However, we do have some good news, is we did accomplish a 0.5% increase in our average daily attendance. And this was mainly caused by our Saturday academies, our attendance recovery. And as a district and in partnership with our LMI initiative, with CSEA and with our Teachers Association attendance campaign that will kick off with our superintendent's leadership of all in, every day, show up, connect, and learn. And so we're rolling that out, and hopefully we can increase our average daily attendance even more. So it includes a 0.5% increase in our ADA. It includes 4.5% expense reduction, and I have to align staffing to declining enrollment, so that's also included in that. We have to also take into account, as I mentioned, the fiscal cautionary red flag of reductions to assist with the future deficit spending and reductions to continue filing a positive budget certification. Because if our superintendent, myself, and this board do not take the necessary measures to maintain fiscal solvency, as I mentioned, there's legislation and stronger legislation that was introduced this January that the county can intervene and they actually make decisions for us. And we do not want that to happen. And at the worst case scenario, then the state comes in. But we are, as a district, maximizing our supplemental and concentration funding that Assistant Superintendent Suzanne mentioned earlier within our LCAP. And that covers all of our goals within our LCAP. And then we are, in our budget, continue to invest in professional development for our teachers and classified staff. I am pleased to say and very proud and thank our fiscal team and all those that helped put this together. This was a lot of work, and it reflects a positive certification, and we're able to meet our current financial obligation and the 2 subsequent years. With that being said, Helen will walk us through the budget cycle. where we're at and where we're going throughout the whole year.
Okay, so we're currently at the June budget adoption, and from there, the state will adopt their budget, and then we have 45 days if there's substantial differences to revise our budget. We'll be closing our books during the summer, so when the teachers and the other staff are off, my staff will be here working hard trying to get everything done. In the fall, prior to first interim, we'll be recording the prior year carryovers, updating any current year apportionments that come in. Just an example, we just got notification yesterday that Title I and Title II, we got 20,000, 20 to 30,000 more for this year, and where it's end of year. So we'll update for that. We'll incorporate the state's adopted budget into our first interim, and we also have to go through the audit of our books by an independent auditor. And then the final audit will be done through November, and we'll present our first interim for adoption or not adoption, but for certification in December. Along with our audit report will be ready by December 15th and will be presented to you in January. We'll go to the governor's proposal for next year. We'll find out what he puts in that. And that will be incorporated in our second interim, where we will put in a multi-year for the next 2 years, along with the current year. And then we'll start the cycle all over with budget preparation, development, and actually finalizing the budget and bringing it to you next year.
So it's definitely a cycle in itself, and it fluctuates, and we're flexible. And I heard the excitement, Helen, in your voice about the audit coming up. So
We love our auditors.
next steps, as we finalize the public hearing, and then we'd adopt the budget on or before July 1st of each year. PVUSD will adopt the budget on June 26th. And then, as I mentioned, within 45 days, depending on the governor and the assembly and what kind of comes to fruition or what happens in the negotiations that they're going through, then we make the necessary adjustments. And I hope we get some good news. And that concludes our presentation or the hearing.
Next, we have Just in Time.
Good evening, Bill Beecher, Just in Time. I guess I'm concerned about some of the numbers. I wish that Trustee Acosta would be here because she's pretty good with numbers. I also wish that Jack Carroll was here, the retired negotiator for PVFT, because he was always tough on these numbers. My concerns are on revenue, salaries, health and welfare, and the ending balance, which is a result of those. On revenue, we've got a declining enrollment, but you've got an increasing amount of revenue. Now, part of that's the COLA, but you go, interesting. Now, on expenditures, there's a significant drop from now till 22, and it comes from employee salaries and benefits. And yeah, we'll lose a few teachers because the ADA numbers are down, but you don't lose that much is what you see in your deal. It's down $7 million just for teachers. And you go, that doesn't make sense. And then health and benefits, health and welfare. They're using 2% as we look out. How many times have we sat in these meetings and we've talked about 6%, maybe going to 7 or 8 or higher? And now 7% ending this year, and we dropped to 2. There's no explanation of why 2. There should be an explanation of why. The ending balance, it goes up this year and next year goes down, and then it starts going back up because we've cut teachers' wages, classified wages, and we haven't risen the health and welfare sufficiently enough to match what it says out there in the world. Now, I've had old math, I've had new math. I'm confused to use either one on this budget, and I think you get a chance to look at this in 2 weeks. It comes back. I would suggest you as a board need to look at these numbers and ask some questions about, are we really going to cut that many teachers that would account for that amount of money that's being dropped? And same for classified, where we're strained to maintain our schools as they are. And then 2% for health and welfare. I find that incredulous. Willie, you hear when I went to a training seminar a couple of years ago, or 6 weeks ago, and everybody was talking about 6 to 8%. And doesn't make sense. Now, as an aside, and this is from other districts, the federal and state grants, if you look at your budget, we're deficit spending in that area. We take in money from the Fed and the state on special programs, and we're deficit spending, which means we're pulling out of the general fund. Should we be taking these special monies? Small districts around the state don't take any of that money because of this problem. Plus, you have all the reporting issues and the overhead rates. So you've got 2 weeks to do your homework. I'd like to see you come back and ask these questions and not have to have me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Joe, you mentioned that there was some difficulty getting the governor's proposal for SELPA funding through the assembly. Do you happen to have any information on where the two assembly members who represent our area are on that?
Good question, and no, I do not know
No,
where they're at.
Yeah.
But I do know there's negotiations going on right now.
So would it behoove, community members to call their representatives' offices?
Yes, I would urge that. I think, like I mentioned, PVUSD was one of the very, I would say, few districts that qualified with Newsom's proposal. But I think that's where the other assembly members throughout our state also said, well, wait a minute, only a certain amount of districts qualify. We should open it up for all districts. And that's where they came in with the preschool SELPA.
And can you clarify a little bit about the health and wellness? Because I thought there were some areas where it was more than 2.5%.
So what we have is our recent rate increase. As you recall, we heard prior that our increase was going to be anywhere from 6 to 9%. So we budgeted 6%, and the rate actually came in at 7.25. And so we adjusted that increase. For the outgoing years, the average has been 2 to 5%. And so this past last year was a industry rate increase throughout the state. But for this coming year, the average is 2 to 5%. If we hear anything else different, that's why we have our interim budgets, is we adjust our budgets accordingly. But right now, we're feeling, or through CISC and the pool that we belong to, that it's going to be an average. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe, can you clarify a little bit about what you guys are doing to help reduce the cost of benefits in your benefit committee?
Some of the items, well, currently, we are in negotiations right now. We are looking at various scenarios on the benefit plans in the network. Those are items that are being looked at. The other opportunities or things that are being considered are the amount of co-pays, the networks that we have within our area, and then I think those are the two major portions that are being negotiated right now. But we are, as a district, looking at further options as a whole, and those options are a variety. But we're looking at that right now with our CIS JPA and then internal team.
I want to talk a minute about declining enrollment. In the past, sorry about that. In the past years, we've hired consultants to come in and do sort of a survey of like the housing projects that are going in and how many children we potentially can anticipate filling those. So I'm surprised that we have declining enrollment when we have sort of scores of housing going in here in Watsonville, and I wouldn't say scores in Aptos, but there is like 72 units going in the village.
Yeah, our numbers are actually moderate projections, and it's a combination of both, and the recent, and this will be adjusted, as I said, it'll fluctuate, but the other component is the recent charter approval by the state navigator. So it's also a combination of, yes, local housing development, and what the city's provided to us of what those units will provide. And so they have the developer's projection, whether that's one child, two children, or more. And then we also are taking into consideration our current declining enrollment trend to charters. And so it's a balance between the two.
Okay, so this was sort of our best guess, or did we use anybody that actually has an expertise in
We did
accurately proposing?
We did use a third-party
You did, okay.
estimator that specializes in enrollment projections.
Oh, great.
And they took into our census data, live birth rates, geographic information, housing trends, et cetera.
Yeah, all of that.
All
Okay,
of that.
that's good. That makes me feel better.
Right.
And just so you're aware, we actually asked them to look at it a second time. So we did have them look at it a second time, and they did even physical checks with all the new incoming housing. So we ensured that they took into account all the new housing that was there. And so we do feel that this is, these are the moderate numbers. So this is assuming the best.
And we did, just to even piggyback on that, our staff, we did, and myself personally met with our planning department here at the city of Watsonville, and we looked at the planning division site maps, the housing, et cetera. And when we pulled the permits to even confirm if they said there was 7 housing developments, we want to make sure that it was 7 that are in process. So.
Okay, thanks. That makes me feel better. I know we can't talk too much about benefits because that's a negotiated item. When we put in the solar arrays at the different schools, we put in 5 solar arrays, plus I think we're maybe proposing some here for the towers. The estimated savings for electricity on those arrays was $380,000 per year. And that was 5 years ago that we put them in. So that is potentially a savings of like 1.2 over the last 5 years. I'm just thinking of ways to increase revenue, really. I mean, we've had consultants come in and tell us how to revamp transportation, and we've, I think, done everything that we can to make that as fiscally sound as possible, right? We've looked at special ed. We had a big look at special ed, and there were multiple recommendations for how to save money there. Were those ever fully implemented? We haven't had actually an update on that in a long time.
So we do have a special education task force. Lisa Aguirre, as now in her new role as the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, will be taking over that group, just because we want to have an intense look at it from a programmatic look. So that does include staff, parents, and all that. I do think that that is an area, when you're contributing $28 million, that is an area that you need to look at. And so we will be heavily looking at that in a collaborative way, but doing it kind of how we've been doing it before, looking at key levers. So what are some key efficiencies that we can do, and try to move it forward. I do believe that there are things that we can do in order to support those efforts. So I think the main thing that we've been doing recently when I first came in, is trying to reduce the number of students going to non-public placement, which we have done through, for instance, implementing the autism program. So we've kept those students in-house versus taking them out. So every time we have a student go into non-public placement, the price varies, but it's generally over $100,000 for each student. And so we've been able to do things like keep them in-house and help support them. We have such a good program that we even have other districts that are sending their children now to our programs, which we charge them for. And so just doing things like that. So we're trying to peck at it slow but sure, and look at it from all lenses.
So when the governor came out with his May revise, it seemed like a boon for education. And not just for special ed, but there were other areas that education was going to be upfunded. Am I incorrect on that?
No, there was funding for K-12 education as a whole. I think one of the areas, though, is the SELPA special ed funding is where he misjudged or, working with the both parties. I think that's something that he's still working on right now. But he did, and I think with the CalSTRS and CalPERS, I think that's another area where he was able to contribute and assist districts. So that was very helpful. Not CalPERS, CalSTRS. Yet, I know they're still working, but I think overall there was a positive. But I think Governor Brown being very aggressive in the implementation of the local controlling funding formula. So when Governor Newsom comes into office, it's already flat funded. So it's already been fully implemented. So he's given that, and so there's no additional local control funding formula dollars. And so he inherited that as he walked in. And Governor Brown fast-paced that, I think, 2 years in front of schedule. So.
Okay. I think my last thought is that, parents and staff and your board members have long hoped and prayed for improvements in facilities, aside from just what we have with Measure L, because we're almost fully expended now. So I would say that any budget that you bring to us for approval needs to have some line item there for a facility improvement. So I'd like you to keep that in mind as you move forward with your budget planning. Thank you.
Okay.
I always, try to read what you have and then put questions down like I did for a lot of questions for LCAP. I don't have that many for you, but I was just going to say, we were so benefited before with Brown in terms of the fact that we had, a large amount of economically disadvantaged students, and we also had a very large amount of English language learners. He was able to give a bigger portion to districts like ours based on those two categories, And it looks like Newsom had decided not to do that. He's decided that he's not giving, because we were at one point able to get some extra funds, which we were able to use to fund teachers and so on. But so has Newsom decided to those kind of extra funds for economically disadvantaged English are not going to be given out to districts like ours, or what?
No, we're still fully funded on our unduplicated count. We're at 80% approximately. And so Newsom is dedicated and is still funding districts with that same funding formula. What Governor Newsom is also inherited is that the state economy is slowing down now. Whereas when Governor Brown was in office, it was recovering and revenues were increasing quite a bit. So you saw a lot of one-time funds also. And now there's not any one-time funds, or very minimal. So I think that's the difference there. In our unduplicated count, there's also efforts here within our district on how to increase that. So making sure that our parents, we standardize the enrollment packet. So now parents have a one standardized form to fill out so we can capture all our unduplicated kids, and making sure that kids that do qualify, we capture those children. So.
Okay, so here's my questions. I was just reading them. Could you, when I was reading your budget and everything, I was trying to read everything, you had actually put a lot of different numbers and different pages in red? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, just explain to me the numbers in red, exactly what they, what that, I was looking at them and I was trying to think, well, these numbers in red, they must be significant.
So
Okay.
red is a debit and/or a deficit. And then in black is the balance or the funds.
Because there was a
within that.
lot of red in there, so there was a lot of deficit?
There's a lot of expenditures.
I mean,
There's revenue and expenditures.
although, but the red was meant expenditures and the black meant.
Correct.
Like-
It's the balance or revenue within that account. But I'm more than happy to set some time up with the superintendent so we can, for any board member to walk you through that.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
because I was just trying to get that, trying to figure out how is.
Yes, it's a complicated, and we try to simplify it within our summary PowerPoint, but it is cumbersome, and there's unrestricted, restricted,
Yeah.
and this, et cetera, and within the LCFF, so.
Yeah, so I was trying to read that, I was like, whoa. So, just help me understand a little bit better, what is the gap funding?
Okay, so if you look at, we'll take 15, 16, and then you look at 16, 17, the gap was what was initially, or what was proposed to come the following year with LCFF. And so we were funded at 60%, for example, of 100%. So the gap was 40%.
Oh.
Then the following year, for example, we got funded at 70%, so the gap was 30, because
Oh, I
they
see.
still owe us 30% of the 100% of funding.
Okay,
Now, in 1920, we're 100% funded LCFF. So there's no longer a gap funding for
Oh.
LCFF.
oh, so there's nothing to get back?
There's no,
from them.
there's no additional funding.
There's no additional fund to get back from them?
Correct.
Okay, so there's no gap funding? There is
No.
no gap funding?
No.
Yeah, okay.
It's a 15-minute discussion.
All right, so my questions are done. So that
thank
was
you.
fun. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Joe. Okay, so I'm closing out this public session. Okay, now, so now I'm going to ask for visitor, do we have a visitor now, Jim? Okay. Now I'm opening it up for visitor non-agenda items. So those of you who want to speak on whatever subject it might be can get up and speak. Hopefully we have some other cards. Oh, there you go. So the rest of them aren't for that?
That we've already done.
Okay.
Okay.
We got Heidi Brown.
Good evening, board, superintendent, assistant superintendents. My name's Heidi Brown. From my home office off of Freedom Boulevard, I work as a program manager for Niroga Institute. Today, like many of you, I was at a graduation ceremony up at Pilarcitos Alternative High School in Half Moon Bay. At that school, Niroga has been offering our dynamic mindfulness curriculum for about a year now. We had a full period mindful leaders class and then in-class 15-minute dynamic mindfulness sessions that are based on Niroga's curriculum. It's a CASEL-approved social emotional learning, mindfulness, and movement-based curriculum. The reason I'm here tonight is because much of our funding for school programs that have been going in the Bay Area for about 15 years now and in the past 5 years are available down in schools in San Diego, Los Angeles, Houston, and New Jersey. Our funding for the Bay Area programs comes from Kaiser. And Kaiser, now being in the Santa Cruz County area, has opened up grant applications for community benefit grants. We would like to submit a grant application and I'm here to see if there's interest from the Pajaro Valley School District to partner on the grant to provide funding for dynamic mindfulness programs in 3 schools. What we would need is, in order to strengthen the application, is a non-binding letter of agreement from either a school or principals or someone from the district to say that they're interested in having these programs in the area. So I have some information here that I can leave with all of you, and I'm hoping that if there is interest, that I could find out who the person I would speak with to continue the conversation, and whether that's by email, phone, or in person. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me? Sure. Sure. I mean, it would just need a signature from somebody that says we're interested in, and if we got the grant money, we would be able to find a place to use it.
So I do want to remind the board that we already get the Kaiser Community Grant, and we already have expended all of our abilities to get those community grants through our alliance with Healthier Tomorrows and our mindfulness work with the PV Health Trust. So not that I'm not supportive of that work, but we have actually, we get already the allocation that we're allowed through Kaiser through the Community Health Grant. So I'm happy to have an additional conversation with you, but I worry about individual board members having additional conversation when we have a strong relationship with Kaiser, and they only allow us so many community health grants, and we have already tapped those for our different projects.
So the grant would be to Niroga, and so it would just be implementing programs in the schools here, but the grant
Well, I'm
funding
not going to engage you,
Oh,
actually.
sorry.
And we do have the PV Health Trust. We've worked 2 years with them with their mindfulness content. So if the board would like, we can follow up. But I do encourage the board to allow staff to be the one to engage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, done. So we're going to do employee organizations, unions, and management. So the Pajaro Valley Federation of Teachers, your time. Ellie, are you going to do, Nellie, are you going to do it? Okay. Oh, Francisco.
Great. Thank you, Francisco.
Oop, it's not, you got to do it again.
Test. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Start all over.
Okay. Yeah, you're starting the clock all over? No.
Yeah, we are.
All right. Francisco Rodriguez with the Pajaro Valley Federation of Teachers, and just wanted to we'll just let you know this will probably be the last time I address you as president, and Nellie will be taken over in the near future. And I just wanted to make a couple comments on some differences and similarities from 12 years ago in the district. But around 12 years ago, the district was engaged a lot of community members in developing the ELL master plan that, as was pointed earlier in the meeting, sat on a shelf for quite some time, well, 12 years. And now tonight, you're being asked to approve a position to ensure that the ELL master plan will be implemented as it is meant to be implemented. And I think that is a step forward. We disagree on exactly, we agree that you need to make sure that the plan is implemented as it is meant to be implemented. Let's put it that way. Another similarity is 12 years ago, two schools in your district implemented full-day kinder without negotiating with us, and it was a disaster. And it created a lot of ill feelings in those sites. 12 years later, you're looking into implementing full-day kinder. The difference is that you have come up to us and asked, before doing anything, to sit down and talk about how best to implement this. And so I think your administration should be commended for that, especially Mr. Dominguez in reaching out to us and doing that.
And Shona.
And Shona as well, thank you. And 4 years ago, 12 years ago, another charter maintenance organization, Beacon, came into the district and did the same thing that 12 years later Navigator is doing. At that time, we opposed Beacon as we opposed Navigator, but as you know, the charter laws in the state are in great need of reform, and so that is causing part of our decline in enrollment. The big difference here is that we were able to work together, I believe, in trying to stop it, and even though we were unsuccessful, I think it has brought the various organizations together to ensure that we work together. 12 years ago, the district and the union, PVFT, and the district implemented what was called at the time the PAL, Partnership of Administration and Labor. That was very similar to what is happening 12 years later, the Labor Management Initiative. The difference there is that from the start of the Labor Management Initiative, PVFT was insistent that we include the classified staff as they are a very integral part of this district, and no partnership of the employee organizations in the district is going to go anywhere if they are not included and encouraged to participate. And so I'm hopeful that this time this partnership will work, and it'll be a partnership of equal partners.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't last time, yeah.
And then lastly, there's still one big similarity that I think hits to the problem of our low teacher salaries and our impact on students. And that is the number of us. There are a lot of us, and by us, I mean district employees. We have, I'll give you just a quick example. I don't know if you looked towards the last section of your proposed budget, but starting on page 24, it details how many projected staff for each of the units, certificated, classified, management, the district is projecting over the next 3 years. But between 1819 and 1920, the district is projecting an increase of 22.5 additional FTEs. 10 of them teachers, even though, remember, we are in declining enrollment. Between 1920 and 21, there is a decline of only 4. And between 2021 and 21-22, there is a decline of 7. meaning that even though we are in declining enrollment, we are increasing by 11.5 FTEs. That was the problem back in 2007 and 2008 when we had layoffs. Those of you that were around, if you recall, our district was having anywhere between 100 to 150 layoffs each year, while the districts around us were maybe having 2 or 3. And I think that is something I would like to leave you with. We all do, all of our teachers, all of our classified and management do their best, but the pie is only so big. And I believe that we have the dedicated personnel to educate our students and do a good job. To that end, PVFT has proposed a mentor, or changes to our mentor article that would do more of a professional development, something that is site-based, that would reduce the need or the tendency to remove our best teachers out of the classroom and instead keep them in the classroom as they mentor other teachers that may need support. With that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Francisco. Okay, are you going to come up? No? CSEA. No, you're not going to come up?
I just want to.
No, I know you're not CSEA.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was
Sorry,
looking
is
at
that
a CSEA. I was bugging her to come up.
Is that okay if I come up and take some more time? Hi, I'm Nelly Bacara Boggs. I'm the incoming president for PVFT, which is, Joe, a federation of teachers. And, so I am excited to come in and really kind of scared, actually, more of that. And I am excited about working with the district in a more collaborative manner. Through LMI, we have demonstrated, or teachers always demonstrate their efforts in wanting to improve class instruction and retaining our students in our schools. We have, through LMI, done several neighborhood walks, which you've already heard about, so I'm not going to go over. But I just wanted to say hi to you guys and just introduce myself, because even though I've spoken before, I'm not going to be here for the next couple of board meetings. So as we transition, Francisco gets to transition back into having more time, and I get to transition into having no time. But fortunately, I did have a summer planned, so it'll be my last summer off. So yeah, I will be back and ready to speak at the end of July or come back in August. But one of the things I would like to do is meet with the trustees. So I will be reaching out to you in the future. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I was trying to convince a CSEA woman that I know to come up, but she's not going to come up. Okay, how about PAVAM, Association of Managers? How about, who have never come here before, CWA, Communication Workers of America? Oh, I don't think so. Okay, this next time we're going to hopefully move along a little bit quicker, hopefully. We're going to do 11.1, which is the Watsonville Charter School of the Arts Renewal, and they've already done their whole presentation, so you should be moving on fairly quickly with this one. And this is an action item this time.
Good evening. Good evening, President Osmondson, Dr. Rodriguez, esteemed trustees. A few weeks ago, my community and I came in front of you, and we showed you our charter petition for the next 5 school years. And tonight, we ask you to approve it. Thank you.
Okay, any public speakers? Any discussion from the board? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Watsonville Charter School for the Arts.
I second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it is 502. Somebody left for a minute. Okay, it's approved. Thank you. Thank you, Amy Thomas. Okay, now we're going to do the next approval of something we've already been presented, and that's 11.2 Special Education SELPA Budget and Service Plan by Heather.
Good evening
Gorman.
again, President Osmondson, Board of Trustees, Dr. Rodriguez. So this is the second half of the approval part of what I presented on earlier tonight.
Exactly. Any public speakers? Any discussion from the board?
I would like to move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, aye. A quick aye from her. Okay. So it's called five, how do you say that now? Now that she's back? 601. Oh, that's one. Okay, 601. Okay, now we're on the next item, and that's 11.3, new class description for a physical therapist. And you can explain why it's such a good idea.
Thank you. Good evening, President Osmondson, board members, Dr. Rodriguez, and staff. I am presenting a new class description this evening for a physical therapist. Physical therapy is one of the related services under Part B of the IDEA and is provided to support the IEP for students ages 3 to 21 in our district who have a disability that interferes with their educational performance and ability to benefit from their education program. When the student's IEP identifies physical therapy as a needed resource, physical therapists will be integrated as members of a multidisciplinary school team. We have been working with agencies to provide this service and would like to recruit for these positions in-house in our district. So this evening, I'm presenting the class description. It also did go to the Personnel Commission at their last meeting on May 30th and was placed on the professional services salary schedule. So I'm just looking for the board to approve the job description and placement on the salary schedule this evening.
Public speakers. Okay, any discussion from the board? No
Pam,
speakers?
can you just, I have no problem with the job description. I thought we had PTs already. We have OTs, but not PTs, right?
That's right, yes.
Okay. And so I'm looking at the salary schedule. So with the masters, they get a differential of $1.66. Is that what that means?
Right, those
Per
are
hour?
hourly rates. Yeah, and
Right.
if you look below, those are the annual rates on the bottom part of the salary schedule. So you'll see the master's stipend annual rate on the far right bottom.
On the bottom, I'm confused. Oh, yeah, I see that. Okay,
Okay.
great. I'm in support of this position. I think it would be cheaper for us, far cheaper to hire somebody for this position. When we were looking at the salary schedule for this position, did we looked at surrounding counties?
Yes, we did look at the market to see where other districts paid these positions, and they were in line with occupational therapists typically at other districts, so that's why we placed them on the same pay range.
We will be using this position mostly with our Duncan Holbert, or like most in special ed, or? And how many positions
Overall.
are we hoping to hire?
They're looking to hire between 1 and 2.
1 and 2,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, she wants Heather to come up, though. Okay. All right, so any other board comments about this one? No?
I would like to move approval.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
601, is that how you say it? Yeah, 601. Okay, now we're on 11.4, staffing agencies, and kind of just explain how that, that's happening. SELPA contracts for 2019-220 by Heather Gorman, SELPA.
Good evening again, Heather Gorman. I'm Heather Gorman, sorry, been up here too many times tonight. President Osmondson, Ford, Dr. Rodriguez. So we do try very hard to always hire within and recruit, and we've done a lot of work this year, and actually we've gotten really close to continuing to hire everybody that we need, but at times we don't find everybody to fill, so we work with staffing agencies to finish up with our hiring when we have needs. And so that's what this item is that we do need to work with staffing agencies, usually with looking for SLPs.
Explain to those.
Oh, speech and language pathologists. Sometimes occupational therapies, but this year we have fully filled our OT staff. So, yeah, it's like, and now we're trying to fill our PT staff with PVUSD hires, but we still have that at times that we need to go outside.
Right, usually, but mostly we're going to have them. So, you explained to me some of the things that they need to hire for. Explain to me, I mean, you can explain too, Heather, but you helped me say some of those little things that we need.
So one example is with our deaf and hard of hearing. At times it's challenging to have the support that we need for our deaf and hard of hearing. So it's very much linked to hard to fill positions. And so this gives us the flexibility that we need. But for example, at Landmark, sometimes we have to use agency staff in order to support the deaf and hard of hearing program that we have there.
I mean, sometimes we probably don't have translators, I mean.
Interpreters. Yeah.
Interpreters for deaf people, and so you'd have to get a translator someplace else, right, or
Yes,
something like that,
That
yeah.
is absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments?
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to support.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 601. Thanks. Okay, this is a quick one, hopefully. 11.5, letter of agreement, Technolochicas lift. And this is really wonderful what we're doing. Technolochicas, yeah, lift. Okay, I got it.
Correct. So we received a grant award from Technolochicas. It's $32,500. It supports 4 sites, those sites being Cesar Chavez, EA Hall, Lakeview, and Rolling Hills. Essentially, it's a 30-hour after-school program that focuses on Latinas being involved in STEM programming. That includes hands-on experiences and also exposing them to other Latina women that have gone into the industry of STEM. There'll be 120 students total that will be impacted across the 4 schools. There is no outlay of district expense to run the program. The program is actually funded by the Televisa Foundation, Eva Longoria Foundation, and League of United Latin American Citizens. We are recommending approval of this item.
Is this just a one-time, like a one-year program?
It is for right now. There is opportunity to be able to grow that too. So if we had additional schools that were interested in it, what they do basically is look at areas that are in deficit of really providing those services. So we would be eligible to go into next year too, potentially with working through the grant writers to be able to receive more
Apply.
services. Yep.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'm in for full support, so I'll make a motion to approve this item tonight.
So how do you pick the 120? I mean, I would think there's so many of them that would want to do it, you would think. So how do you pick the 120?
Well, we're not going to limit it, so it does give us a little bit more opportunity to be able to look at it. Essentially what the program wants us to do is to try to keep it at 30. They do have some parameters that they look at. We've kind of marked that based off of Girls Paving the Way, other programs that we've been able to kind of see and solicit students as well. Gear Up will also be helping to identify students.
Okay.
So that's really the factors that we're looking at. We're not excluding folks either though, so if we did get a push, we would make provisions to make sure that that worked as well.
Oh, that sounds good.
And I'll second.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Aye.
Aye. 601. Okay, new class description, again with Pam Shanks for a school bus driver trainee.
Thank you again. I'm excited to share this new job description with the board. In collaboration with the Transportation Administration and CSEA, we came up with this class description that we're presenting. In recent months, we've been successful in filling our school bus driver trainee classes, and we've even had a waiting list on them, which has been great. And there has been a need to continue to provide support to those folks who complete the class. The process to obtain a commercial driver's license is pretty intensive and overwhelming. And so we did conduct a needs analysis and found when those folks go to the DMV to obtain the required permits to drive a school bus, they oftentimes have difficulty and don't complete the process. So we're proposing to hire employees as school bus driver trainees in order to provide direct support to them to complete the process and the requirements to get their commercial driver's license in order to drive a school bus. And so the goal is to help them along the way in order to fill our school bus driver vacancies once they become fully licensed. So the Personnel Commission also did approve this new job description on May 30th and placed it on range 33 of the classified salary schedule. So it also allows for some promotion when they become a full school bus driver, because that is a higher level position. So I'm asking for the board's support in approving this job description tonight, so we can move forward with filling our vacancies.
That sounds good. Well, there's no public speaker, no discussion from the board, right? You want to just
No.
make motions?
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity.
It is. Okay, that's a motion, second.
Second.
Okay, all those thank you, Pam Shanks.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
601. Okay, it's 11.7, approve adoption of declaration of need for fully qualified teachers, which is Allison Nizawa, Director of Certificated Personnel.
Good evening, President Osmondson, board members, Dr. Rodriguez. Yes, I'm here to present the declaration of need for fully qualified teachers that we need to present to the county. So the California legislature took action to terminate the State Board of Education's authority to use their general waiver authority to grant credential waivers after June 30th, 1994. In its stead, the legislator authorized the Commission on Teacher Credentialing to approve requests to waive laws or regulations governing education preparation and licensing. New processes and procedures developed by the Commission on Teacher Credentialing require the governing board to adopt a declaration certifying that there is an insufficient number of certified persons who meet the district's specified employment criteria. So without a board-adopted declaration, the district will not be able to employ a sufficient number of teachers to fulfill its obligation to the students and community. So I am requesting you approve the declaration, please.
No, okay, discussion with the board. We can disapprove it.
Motion to approve.
Okay, second.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
601. Okay, thank you, Allison.
You're welcome. I have the next one, so I'm not gonna.
You have the next one again,
Come on,
okay.
wait, come back.
Approved job description, teacher on special assignment, academic school specialist.
Yes,
Okay,
so
again.
yes, so we have a job description, a new job description for a teacher on special assignment for an academic school specialist. The job description for the teacher on special assignment, academic school specialist, is critical to efforts by the Pajaro Valley Unified School District to implement academic support for student learning in English and math. This position is being funded as a result of designation of a school in need of comprehensive support and improvement through the California Department of Education. PVUSD had 4 schools receive the assistance, including Radcliffe Elementary, EA Hall, New School, and Renaissance High School. Under the direction of the site principal, the academic school specialist shall bring evidence-based instructional practices and research-based student connection frameworks into the classroom by working with teachers and other school leaders. The academic school specialist must have the skills to coach and mentor other teachers in the areas of content standards, instructional pedagogy, research-based student connection techniques, knowledge of issues related to access and achievement, and successful experience working with underserved student populations. So I move. I'm not voting, I'm sorry. But I do request that you move to approve. You know what you need to do. I'll be right there.
Okay, no comments, obviously. Okay, discussion from the board. Anybody want to say anything to her about this?
I do. If that's okay. So this is funded by the California Department of Education. Did we apply for a grant, or how did this come to us?
I believe it's in response. It's kind of the new program improvement. So it's schools that
Okay.
are needing additional support. So it's the new and improved.
So we have only 4 schools that need additional support this year?
Mhm.
Okay. Great. I'm in support. Anyone else have any questions? I move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 601.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you think we need to ask for more time? Yes. So maybe we should ask. to
I'm
go
making a
later.
motion to extend the meeting to 11 a.m.
Second.
Yeah.
a.m.
Okay, all
Yeah.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
okay, keep going. Oh, this one's employment for, isn't this assistant super? Oh, I've got it in that last page, wow, okay. Okay, I know it's with you, Michael. And it's, I was way in the end, okay. 11.9, approved job description, coordinator, English learner program certificated management by Michael Berman, Director of Equity, State and Federal Programs and Accountability. Go for it.
Good evening, President Osmondson, members of the board, Dr. Rodriguez. Before you, you have the proposed job description for the coordinator of English learner programs. This position is the recommendation based on the hard work and dedication of a team of teachers, educators, community members, et al. That authored the newest edition of the master plan, which we've been talking about tonight. I do want to reiterate that the team of master plan writers consisted mostly of teachers. And as we talked about last time when we presented the master plan, these are the posters where we brainstormed the characteristics of what this job would entail.
Actually, it looked like there's a couple of parents in there, too.
There's parents, there's community members,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
teachers
yeah.
and administrators.
Yeah, if you showed me, if you could see it.
And these are most of the things that I mentioned last time. They were the ones that had the most votes for the most preeminent needs of the position, and just culminating with just a champion of the master plan. And the main the tasks are to oversee, monitor, and support the development and expansion of dual language model TK-12, and also the improved implementation of integrated and designated ELD. Those are the two largest pieces, but within that they're driven by the language development approach that is the center of the implementation plan. 4 of the key pieces that are in the job description that reflect the desires of the team are put here. I'm not going to read them for time's sake, but mostly it's to support me and the department in planning, overseeing, holding accountable, and monitoring that we are implementing this master plan in a way that we haven't done before. And the plan does call out for extensive action by us as a district. And so we do need to ensure that we have the people necessary, and this position would hold, would be the monitoring engine. One piece that we do want to make clear is that this is not funding. This is funding coming from Title IV. It's a new funding, Title IV Part A. It's specifically for the Well-Rounded and Healthy Student Fund. It's generally laid out in 3 provisions: providing students with a well-rounded education, supporting safe and healthy students, and supporting the effective use of technology. In our comprehensive needs assessment as a district, we identified, and it was mentioned earlier when we were talking about SELPA, is that we want to improve our quality first instruction, our Tier 1 instruction. The all means all. We want to make sure that Tier 1 is solid. And the language development approach identified by the team and in the plan is that Tier 1 academic and asset-based mindset approach that we've identified as the pathway to ensure that we are improving our Tier 1 implementation, our Tier 1 instruction district-wide for all students, not just ELs. And therefore, in consultation with the state, we have been said that that's a really good application of Title IV funding. That's it.
Okay, no public speakers. So any comments?
This is exciting.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Been waiting for this for a very long time, so I'm in full support. I think it's good that we support making sure that we have the proper staff to ensure that the plan is effectively implemented and that there's accountability across the board. So with that, I make a motion to move this forward.
So I was just going to ask, so is that person being funded, how's that person being funded? Yeah.
Being funded out of Title IV, which,
what I
as Mike was mentioning, it has limited abilities to fund different things. So in our case, because of, I mean, I've said it before, it's not a positive, but because of our low achievement levels, we are able to use it to support core first instruction, which aligns with the EL master plan.
Okay. Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, so first and second, oh,
I'll make a second, but I have more comments.
Okay.
Can I do that now?
yeah.
So to me, this funding seems to support all students though. And are we using it just for ELs? I'm concerned about that.
Sure. So we have a saying, when you focus on the most vulnerable students, everyone wins.
Right.
You're going to hear me say that in a video coming up soon. And so we really believe that. So we believe if we fortify and enrich core first instruction for our most vulnerable and fragile students, then in turn every single student will in turn improve. Just because the pedagogy that you're using will improve instruction for all. So it's really blending towards personalized learning, trying to figure out how we can be data informed and how we can use best practices to support all our students. So I do believe that although English learners is our main focus, I do believe that it will raise the achievement of all.
I mean, I was always bugging the person in your position before, Jean, or of the master plan we had before. Come on, we got to work on the master plan. We got to implement it. We got to do. I was always bugging the person, in that position. Like we got to, but it never happened. I'm so glad that we've, revised it and it's going to happen finally. And we have even you in another position to help make it happen. So I'm really glad finally. I've been, for me, it was like a big issue to try to implement before, but I don't think it was going to happen. I just don't think the superintendent was that into it before or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways. Okay, let's vote on it. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank
you.
you. Okay, now we're back on 11:10. I could not see the 9/11. So we're going to approve the contract of employment for Assistant Superintendent, which is Casey Klappenbach. And you want to present?
Yeah. So it's my pleasure
And
to
Dr.
present
Rodriguez.
the contract for Casey Klappenbach. I want to say that, when I think of who we want to have on our cabinet and who we've added in just the recent past, all of them have the same characteristics, and that's the fact that they always put students first, and they have a high skill set not only on the technical and instructional, but also have a high skill set on being able to work with others and collaborate and communicate. And so when I think of Casey Klappenbach and I think of what he can bring to this district, I'm really excited because I know that I am going to have a dynamic trio with being able to have him work alongside Lisa and Chris. in the instructional side and really help round out the others that are on the team as well. So he brings a lot of strength in the areas that we're currently focusing on, so foundational literacy, MTSS, PBIS, and community involvement and enrichment. And most importantly, he believes in our students. So he's from Santa Ana Unified, and he currently, as of last week, supported and was a champion for every single student, every single vulnerable student at his school, and I know he'll do the same here. So I request that you approve his contract.
Are there any speakers? No? I'll make a motion to approve the contract for Assistant Superintendent for, this is for primary grades elementary. So I don't know if Casey could come up to the podium. So there's a first.
I'll second.
Casey, go ahead and talk to us.
All right.
Let's do a vote first.
Oh, you want to do
Vote first?
Let's do a vote.
Okay, we'll vote for you and then you can talk to us. Okay, you got a vote, we had a first and second, right?
Right, we do.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, President Osmondson.
Yeah, you got it right.
Members of the board, Dr. Rodriguez, members of the cabinet, and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. Thank you, first of all, thank you for selecting me to be able to serve the students, the families, the staff, and the community of the Pajaro Valley Unified School District. I am grateful for you for this opportunity because I have a great deal of passion for early learning, being able to be innovative and give our students those opportunities to provide that access, that equal access and opportunity. And in addition, just to be able to bring family and community and involve them and engage them deeply in the education of their children. And lastly, making sure that all of our students feel safe, that they feel they have that sense of belonging to the classroom, to their school, and that connectedness that they definitely need to have at all of our schools. So thank you. I am thrilled and eager to begin my work as a member of this team, of the PVUSD team. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, this is the next one we're gonna have to deal with. This is the Watsonville High School Mellow Center, and they want to have some GBA board appointments. The Pottle Valley Performing Arts Association used to, deal with it, but now they need us to get more involved in it because I guess there's people that are not there anymore in the association. So they want us to be together with the city. The city's gonna appoint members of the city to be on it as well, and so they're asking us to also appoint board members on it as well. Okay, so no public speakers, obviously. So discussion of the board or anybody who wants to jump in there? Suppose I could be. No, there's nobody making it.
Yes, Mr. Dominguez can say a few words regarding the agreement.
Okay.
Well, as briefly described, it's a joint powers agreement between the city of Watsonville and PVUSD, and specific to the Mellow Center. And the JPA board is a board that provides governance and oversight of the partnership in a collaborative approach to look at ways to enhance and increase the use of the Mellow Center as a community resource and actually attract, whether it's concerts, theater, arts, and other acts to enhance the usage of the facility, And one of the items that the JPA intent or goals and objectives is the net revenue or proceeds of those events will be reinvested into the Mello Center. This has been on hold for a while, just through the transition over the years within both entities. And so now we're trying to revive the JPA so that we can move forward and enhance those services. In order to do so, we need representation both from our board, 2 members from our board, and then 2 city council members. And then they have staff appointed from each agency, and we plan to meet quarterly as a JPA board, and those are the requirements. And so tonight, we need to, amongst our board, select 2 board members to represent our district on the JPA board.
I mean, I guess I could do it. How about you, Danny? What?
I'm willing to volunteer.
There you go. Danny's gonna be one of them. I think Watsonville High is a school. Also, I mean, if nobody will do it, I'll do it, I guess. Is there anybody else that really, really wants to really badly? I mean,
It
I
has
don't
to be
have
2 board members or 2, yeah,
2 board
okay.
members.
2 board members.
Unless there's anybody that really wants to do
sorry.
it. What?
I have way too much going on, I cannot.
No, that's what I'm saying. I do have a lot going on too, but whatever. But that's okay.
I make a motion to approve the appointment of Karen Osmondson and Daniel Dodge Jr. to the JPA board.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Okay, yeah. Whoa.
Call the vote.
Okay, vote, we're gonna vote about ourselves. Okay, all those who are in favor of us being on the board, everybody vote. Aye. Okay, thank you. Now we're almost gonna be done. We're almost gonna be done, and we're doing the consent agenda, yay! So the consent agenda, the only thing I'd like to do on that one is to accept with gratitude. These are donations from La Colmena and El Pueblo Market, because they supported our Innovator of the Year event, and there was a lot of food. In fact, I took home a lot of it myself. All the little vegetarian wraps. I took home a big old thing of one. I have it still there. So thank you to them for their donations to us for the Innovator of the Year event. And other than that, I will call for a vote.
I don't
unless
think
you
we have a
wanna-
first, do we have a first?
No, we don't have a first. But anybody want to pull anything?
I want to pull, if I could, 12.11.
Okay. 12.11. Okay, so we're going to pull that, and we're going to go ahead and vote on the rest, everything else.
I'll
All-
second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So anybody who can talk about this one? Okay.
So 1211 is specific to the Bradley School Site change in priority projects through Measure L bond program. And this was in partnership and collaboration with our school site principal, the school site council, and our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. The big shift in scope or in the list was initially Bradley was set up for approximately 7 portables. And then because of the cost, but also the I think it was the soil and compactment of the soil and the associated costs with that, that was reduced to 5 portables. And then further studies were completed by our engineers and architects, and then that got reduced even less by I think it was down to 4 portables. We met with the site leadership and site council and how to readjust the priority list and maximize our bond dollars at that site. And so it came to agreement to the portables, it would actually use up all their funding, or they didn't even have enough funding to even complete the portables. So it was a decision made to not do the portables and look at other priority items within on their list. And so the principal worked with the site council to do so, and then our bond oversight committee. And so that's what this is being presented. So we have a track, walking track for the kids. We are gonna paint the school site. They're looking at a kiosk. And then there's other items with on the list as well, but they're listed there.
So we passed this bond in 2010. It is now 2019. I actually went and looked on all of the projects that have ever been done at Bradley, and there's exactly 0. I am a little mad about all of this, because they need new portables, frankly. You've seen them. Have we done a roof for them? Because they have horrible leaking problems, or they have in the past.
So we've completed one bond project, which is the solar project there.
Right,
at the
but they
site.
don't get a direct benefit from that, really. The benefit is to the general fund, not to them directly.
So we are currently looking at there's dry rot on some of the roofs, and we are currently looking at that. So that'll also be repaired as we paint the school. So that is part of that. And then the site is very adamant about the walking track, so that's the want or the need of the site. And I think the parents, the site council, they're very excited. We have preliminary designs right now, and we're finalizing cost estimates. And very soon, we want to actually try to accomplish the track actually this summer before next school starts. And I agree, and that's why we're very adamant on the plan of action, because Bradley has been on hold for a while.
So, in the past, I've written a grant to the Wharf to Wharf and I put in the Valencia track. So I'd appreciate it if we could try to get some money from the Wharf to Wharf for that, so that it doesn't cost us so much.
Yeah.
Painting the school should just come out of regular maintenance. To me, it shouldn't come out of Measure L at all. And we do need to fix the roofs there, because they have buckets everywhere when it's pouring rain. And I'm surprised and shocked that we haven't looked at that. And their portables do need replacement. So that wasn't like a sexy thing that they wanted. It was like a huge need there. So I think we need to sort of redouble efforts and take a look there and see if there's some things that maybe we could use one-time monies for, or something to make this good for Bradley, because I think they might be one of the only schools that really hasn't had anything done there. I think, didn't we fix the septic system there? That was
Yes,
very
yeah.
costly.
Yes, we did.
But was that Measure L dollars that fixed that?
That was a combination of that and some other funds. the
So that
facilities.
doesn't show up anywhere on any of the project lists, nor does the solar array, which really isn't a huge benefit to them. It's a benefit to us.
And we did make a shift, and so the principal we've been in collaborative meetings, and so there is a shift, and now we're shifting the priority list to make sure it's what Bradley wants. And I hear you loud and clear about the roofs, and we are looking into that right now. We were gonna paint the school, just to let you know, Monday, but because of the amount in dry rot and the roof damages throughout the campus, we're doing a further assessment to say, okay, what can we paint this summer, and what are the items that we have to get fixed, and look at that at the next break. But we are working with the principal hand in hand and the school site council.
Okay, because when I look at this list here and I see install a fire alarm, fire hydrants, clock bell system, I mean, these are things that are standard safety items that should not be coming out of Measure L. They really shouldn't.
That's the other thing that we mentioned at our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. And then, and I'm working on, as I mentioned, shifting the priority list to look what's the positive impact to students, and then what is routine restricted maintenance or deferred maintenance. So I'm in full agreement, and I'm just letting the whole board know that we are making a shift, not just for Bradley, but for our other sites as well.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate some quick action and anything that we can do to help bring improvements there, including something exciting and not just stuff that should be things that the district is providing.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
But the wharf idea you had is
Yes, we're gonna reach out to Wharf to Wharf. Thank you.
Okay, so we're voting on the deferred consent. We're voting on 12.11 now. And say, make a motion.
I'm making a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna do the closed session. No, I guess there's no expulsions, right? No expulsions. Yeah, okay.
All right, here we go. Motion number 1, closed session item 2.2. I move to approve the certificated personnel report as presented by district administration on June 12th, 2019 with 149 and 9 additional action items.
Second. Okay. We're voting. Mitch, we're gonna vote.
Call the vote.
All those, you first and second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion number 2, closed session item 2.3. I move to approve the classified personnel report as presented by district and administration on June 12th, 2019 with 115 and 2 additional action items.
Second. You did it already?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. All right, announcement number 1. The Pajaro Valley Unified School District is pleased to announce the selection of Rick Ito as the new Director of Student Services. Currently the principal at Rolling Hills Middle School since 2005, Mr. Ito has extensive education and training. He obtained an administrative services credential, teacher credential in social science and master's degree in special education from San Jose State. Mr. Ito has a bachelor's degree from Sacramento State with a major in history. In addition to his education, Mr. Ito has a variety of both teaching and leadership experience. Prior to serving as a principal in our district, Mr. Ito was an assistant principal at Rogers Middle School and Moreland School District. He is a board member for the Wolpert Algebra Academy and California League of Middle Schools. He has served on the negotiation teams, ELL, and Curriculum Council. Mr. Ito has worked directly with special needs students as a special day class teacher. With this accomplished victory, we look forward to the future success of our Student Services Department under the leadership of one of our own, Mr. Rick Ito. The motion passed 4-2. Announcement number 2. The Pajaro Valley Unified School District is pleased to announce the selection of Greg Fry as a new Coordinator of Student Services. Currently the Assistant Principal at Rolling Hills Middle School since July 2016. Mr. Fry came to PVUSD in 2008 as an RSP teacher at Pajaro Middle School. He obtained an administrative services credential from San Jose State University and an educational specialist teaching credential with a focus on mild to moderate learning disabilities from the Santa Cruz County Office of Education. In addition to his education, Mr. Fry worked in a nonprofit sector running summer camps and coordinating after-school literacy programs and served on several nonprofit boards. He brings a wealth of experience and knowledge from the classroom and administrative roles. We are proud to welcome this highly accomplished educator to his new administrative role as Coordinator of Student Services. Announcement number 3. The Pajaro Valley Unified School District is pleased to announce the selection of Tanya Boyle as the new Assistant Principal of EA Hall. Mrs. Boyle has been serving students since 2001 as a science teacher in the San Jose Unified School District. She received her administrative service credential from Santa Clara University, teacher credential in biology from Willamette University in Oregon, and her bachelor's degree in biology from the Linfield College in Oregon. Mrs. Boyle has been serving in the capacity of Administrative Activities Director at Raymond J. Fisher Middle School in Los Gatos. In this role, she has revitalized the student leadership program and became an award-winning yearbook advisor, served as both department chair and curriculum lead, and was the district teacher of the year in 2017. She developed and taught a STEAM elective program. She has extensive experience in planning standards-based hands-on science lessons and mentored other educators to be leaders for both students and colleagues. We are proud to welcome this highly accomplished educator to a new administrative role. That was 6-1. Announcement number 4. The Pajaro Valley Unified School District is pleased to announce the selection of Catherine Kriskunis as the new assistant principal at Aptos High School. Ms. Kriskunis has been serving the Pajaro Valley Unified School District since 2015 as a science teacher, tech liaison, school site council member, instructional rounds leader, and WASP coordinator. Prior to PVSD, she was a teacher at North Monterey County High School. Ms. Kriskunis was collaborated with university professors and graduate students to develop curriculum for next generation science standards and a great American biotech research experience for teachers at the University of Florida. She was a teacher's fellow at Cosmos for the University of Santa Cruz. Among her many awards, Ms. Kriskunis was County Science Initiative Teacher Leader, Mariner of the Year at Aptos, Drago Slayer Awardee, and Rookie of the Year in North Monterey County. At San Jose State University, she obtained a teacher credential with a 3.97 GPA and was named Dean Scholar while earning her bachelor's degree in biological science. She received an associate's degree with honorable mention from Cabrillo. We are proud to welcome this highly accomplished educator to a new administrative role. It was 6-1. Okay. Next announcement, the Pajaro Valley Unified School District is pleased to announce the selection of Laura Smith as a new principal at Radcliffe Elementary. Mrs. Smith has been with our school district since 2016, first joining the Pajaro Valley family as a teacher at Radcliffe, then accepting a promotion to academic coordinator at Mar Vista in 2018. Mrs. Smith has over 17 years of success and contributions to schools. In addition to her Pajaro Valley experience, Mrs. Smith served as a third grade teacher and Spanish teacher at Holy Cross School, as well as fifth grade Spanish teacher at Galt Elementary and bilingual teacher at Santa Maria Bonita School District. She received a bachelor's degree majoring in Spanish with a minor in Latin American Studies and Child Development from Cal State Chico, a master's in education leadership from the National University, and a B-Clan credential from Cal Poly. Mrs. Smith has led professional development activities that focused on in-depth data analysis and targeted meaningful instruction. Fluent in both English and Spanish, Mrs. Smith has worked with hundreds of multicultural students with varying learning capacities at elementary and middle school. We are proud to welcome the highly accomplished educator to her role as a principal. 6 with 1 absent. The Pajaro Valley Unified School District is pleased to announce the selection of Ryan Block as the new Senior Project Manager, Facilities Bond Program. Mr. Block brings a wealth of experience to his new position. He has a strong communication background where he has worked as a junior foreman from a commercial plumbing and building company. He continued his career with our district starting in 2016 as a planning specialist in the planning department, where he spent the last 3 years coordinating major construction projects in district. Mr. Block received a bachelor's degree in political science from Chico State and is currently completing an associate's degree in construction management. We welcome Mr. Block to the planning department and administrative team as we continue our facilities for our staff and our students.
Phew.
Congratulations all.
Couple more.
Congratulations to all of you who have been hired.
All right.
Thank you.
2.5, the board approved to ratify workers' compensation claim number 450844 with a 502 vote. The board approved to ratify workers' comp claim number 506331 with a 502 vote. The board approved to ratify workers' comp claim number 544286 with a 502 vote. And 2.8, the board voted to approve the final settlement agreement for release for one special ed student with a 6-1 vote.
Okay.
Congratulations.
So our next board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, June 26th, and it's going to be here, not someplace else. Thank you for all of you who are still here with us. Adjourn.